Shalom Bahashim Yahuwah Kodesh Israel. This is the tribal minister, Prince Charlene Dean Ben Ami Maltazar Ben Yasha Allah Senior, the mighty Hebrew. I give all praise and honor to Yahuwah, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers. Other than him, he's Yitzchak and Yaakov, those striving for righteousness' sake all over the four corners of the earth. I say unto the family, Shalom Aleichem. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to be here. Yeah, y'all know I'm out of Facebook jail. I was on that for like 7 days on Facebook jail. I see everybody popping in. Shalom to all Hebrew Israelites, sovereign nationals, all over the four corners of the earth. It's definitely an honor and a privilege. My time is 2:54 a.m. Y'all know I'm in Tanzania. So, I was on Facebook lockdown for like 7 days. So it gave me some time to look at a few videos. So the last video I just seen was the young brother Aharon Yahudiym versus the boy Jeremiah. So I'm watching this joint tentatively. Y'all know me, I'm the mighty Hebrew. So y'all know I can see certain things that other people can't see. So I'm listening to both arguments. Now, first and foremost, before I start, let me just invite a few people in. I see it's hitting. I want y'all to spread this. I want y'all to spread this because it's very important. And I'm going to show y'all why I'm saying that the young brother Aharon, he decapitated dude. And I'm going to tell y'all why. It was, Jeremiah don't know what he's talking about. Anybody that understands Niquidot or any type of grammatical structure dealing with Hebrew when it comes to tenses, whether you're dealing with past tenses, present tenses, future tenses. Like all languages, Hebrews have conjunctures, pronouns. 94% of Hebrew is really dealing with verbs. So you're talking about objective function. If we talk in Hebrew, right? But that's not the point of the subject matter. The point is as to why I'm saying that the brother Aharon won. Now, I heard all of the 3 judges' responses as to how they responded. Now, I don't know what anybody was listening to. I really don't. Because if they was really listening to that debate, Aharon, not only did he use the offensive approach to dismantle Jeremiah's claim that so-called Mexicanos fit the curses of DEUT.28 / the Torah, but he also defensively, he was proving that we so-called Negroes are Israel. It was really a very brilliant approach, actually, because, for instance, when young Aharon asked him about Wayikra, or Leviticus chapter 26, verse 36, and when it was talking about after the annihilation of us being a sovereign nation, the destruction of us being a sovereign nation in the land of Israel, northeastern Africa. And when we started to migrate into West Africa, the few that were left were scattered amongst the four corners of the earth. This is why I keep challenging any of these cats. The E1B1A DNA that is centralized amongst the Bantu-speaking tribes is all over the earth. We know your haplotype. To the Hispanic population that's saying that they're Israel, y'all have 4 haplotypes. Y'all have our haplotype, right? Which is the Spaniard conquistadors, right? Then you have Q haplogroup or haplotype that's of Mongol in origin that go back to the Gobi Desert. We know y'all history. Then you got the old haplogroups, because you got to remember the Southeast Pacific Islanders, when you start talking about the Samoans, the Manalises, the Hawaiians, all them are old haplogroups that go back to the Australoids of Australia, right? Then you got some fictitious J haplos because the so-called Jews, Amalek, was a part of the transatlantic slave trade, whether you're talking the East African slave trade or the West African slave trade. Now, I don't know what y'all was listening to. He destroyed dude because if you look how Aaron did it, when he was dismantling dude saying he was Israel, he was building a case showing that we're Israel. The 36th verse of Vayikra, Leviticus 26, Jeremiah could not answer. He said, if the few left would be the ones to go into captivity, meaning what was left of us, why you keep giving us examples of Mexicans being scattered into certain parts and not all over the earth? And furthermore, Mexicans never went into slavery, like he's trying to say, because Mexicans are a hybrid of people that has been amalgamated into what we know as Mexicans today. So what is he talking about? You mean the original indigenous inhabitants, such as the Huancas, the Pueblos, the Azteca? And when you look at these people, they were dark. These people were dark with wavy and woolly hair, man, even though they weren't us. But I'm on a whole nother level. I'm saying they are part of the residue of the Atlantean root epic. I'm not even going to get into that, but they're not even descendants of Noach. We keep trying to put these people as if they are part of the 12 tribes, and they're not. Now let's dismantle this. Let's go to these so-called curses. Okay, in Deuteronomy chapter 28, 15 to 68, and we're going to be shooting over the Leviticus. I'm Torah only, so I'm dealing with the Tanakh. I'm not dealing with none of these games that they playing. I'm going to show you how you dismantle this cat. You cannot, just like they asked about the olives. Y'all know olives isn't indigenous to North America, South America, and Central America. Stop lying. Stop trying to make the America seem like it's the land of Israel when it's not. Because I'm going to ask you where Rome at, and don't try to tell me Rome. Then I'm going to start going into archaeology. Then I'm going to start going into paleontology and craniology, and I'm going to show and prove with facts that y'all don't fit the curses. Then you try to use a curveball, Jeremiah, and try to get the brother on the tip about where he see the land of Israel at, because you know a certain division, but that didn't have nothing to do with the situation. That's why he kept it on topic when he was saying the desolate land, because you try to get in with the Numidia thing. Come on, man. Just like y'all think the land of Israel is the state of Israel. That's only a part of the land of Israel. Read it in context. Go to Bereshit, chapter 15, verse 18. The same demarcation stations as the four riverheads outlined in Genesis of Bereshit, chapter 2:13. Don't it say our land will be from the great river Egypt all the way to the Euphrates? So let me break it down. If you go to Uganda, you in the land of Israel. If you go to Kenya, you in the land of Israel. If you go to Tanzania, you in the land of Israel. If you go to Ethiopia, you in the land of Israel. If you go to Egypt, Palestine, Israel, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, all that is Israel. The whole entire from East Africa to Northeastern Africa is in fact, brother, the land of the promise. Go read it. Go right now. Go to Genesis chapter 15, 18. We know the demarcation stations. That's why y'all don't want to really play with it on an archaeological level or a historical level, because you know for a fact that the Americas is not Israel. Stop lying. Let me break this down where that came from. Me and my team of Israelites out in Philly, there was this boy by the name of Horace Butler. He wrote a book called When Rocks Cried Out. Man, he came down to the Franklin Institute and we bombed him, and he admitted that a lot of that stuff that he wrote was fictitious. Ask Horace Butler, when he came to Philly, when Prince Cass, Sar Rabbah, all them different Israelite leaders, then when they was at that event where he was talking about that book, did he not admit that most of that book was fictitious? Yeah, I'm an OG Israelite, so y'all can't play with me. 30 years plus in this. I'm telling you, young bull smashed him. Easy, he destroyed him. So now, let's get into it. Boom. Let's go into the Yahudiym. Let's read things in context because the young brother is correct. Certain verses apply to us today, while other verses apply when we was in the land. If it says that our cattle will be taken from us from our land, that's talking about in the land of Israel. It's not talking about when we were in the land of captivity. Y'all dumb as hell. Just like when y'all try to use Isaiah chapter 7 to think it's a prophecy, but it's all written in the past tense. You can't do that. Come on, man. It happened during the days of King Ahaz. The son to be born was Isaiah's own son. Hesbaz, which figuratively they called him Emmanuel, which means our power be with us. It was a slogan when the Assyrians came to conquer the northern kingdom. Rezin. Come on, we know Pekah, son of Ramallah. Remember when Rezin made an alliance with Pekah and all them? Come on, man. Ahaz was afraid because remember, he was wicked in the sight of the Most High. All you got to do is take Isaiah 7, 8, and 9 and align it with Kings. What's that? 15, 16, 17, and 18. And you'll see, because remember, King Ahaz sacrificed his son to Moloch into the fire. He was wicked. That's why he didn't want to tempt the Most High in the 7th chapter of Isaiah. And then the first verse say, and it came to pass, meaning it already happened. All you got to do is go to chapter 1, verse 1 of Isaiah. It tell you what the whole entire book talking about. And now we talking Hebrew grammar. It's all written in the past tense, period. Now back to this Deuteronomy 28. Because y'all cats is crazy, man. To say, I'm not. Now, Jeremiah, Judah, the only reason why he had to judge it like that, because there wasn't enough judges. But what I'm saying is, this boy easily won. He easily won. Shout out to Jeremiah, Judah, Lions Den, right? This the mighty Hebrew, live and direct, 3:06 a.m. in Tanzania, repatriated back to the promised land. I'm in the promised land. Ain't this a part of the demarcation stations of the great river Egypt to the Euphrates? Don't the Nile flow down Mount Carmel? Come on, man. I ain't even gonna go there. So now, we here, right? We in verse. Let's just start at. Now, I'm going to start at the beginning. But if you do not obey, Yahweh, another thing I caught. Now, I don't know if you caught this, Aaron, when he said that statement to you and he used the Creator's name, or not even the Creator's name, he used the term Hashem. Now, I don't know if y'all caught that. That's Judaism, man. Hashem mean a name. What name you talking about? In Judaism, European Talmudic code, they teach that the name was too sacred to say, right? And that only the Rabbim or the Kohanim, right, or the priests, they would utter the name of the Creator only during the day of Yom Kippur. But every time they see the name in the modern Masoretic text, right, you will see the Tetragrammaton. But the vowel points where they put them at, it gives the interpretation to pronounce Adonai or Adoni, or they would do Hashem, the name. But it clearly says Yahweh. That's what it say, right? That's what it say. It gives you the Yuhe-Wahe or Yahawah, however you want to pronounce it. Modern Hebrew, your Lashawan Kwadesh, however you want it, right? Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. The whole point is the Tetragrammaton is there. It is commanded for us to reveal the name of the Creator, to say the name of the Creator. Don't conceal it. That right there shows there's an underhand agenda, because what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of the Hispanics are like in the western part of the United States, like New Mexico, all them different areas, Arizona, Colorado, California, Mexico. You got to understand, a lot of mestizas was in that land, or secret Jews that were a part of Amalek or the Amalekites. Because you got to remember, in the book of Kings, the 6th chapter, you will see that in the book of Samuel, you'll see King David put garrisons on Edom, and they became his servants, meaning he enforced Torah on them. And then if you go into, this was Edom, they did this to Edomites. Then if you go into the book of Maccabees, you see John Hyrcanus enforcing Torah on them. And a lot of them migrated and amalgamated with the European populations that was already up there in Iberia, Spain, and Portugal. And they were a part of the transatlantic slave trade and the East African slave trade, and even the total massacre of the indigenous inhabitants that's in North America, that was in North America, South America, and Central America. So a lot of these Hispanics actually are descendants of Amalek. You see what I'm saying? That's why they so captivated to Judaism. That's why, if you notice, they're starting to lean more over to Judaism. They even going into this mind state of trying to compare themselves with amalgamated people in the fucking land of the East. Like, they're trying to take a modern day Arab and themselves and compare and say, see, I'm Semitic. How dumb can y'all be? I'm talking about the so-called Hispanic Israelites that look at us as Canaanites. How you going to, in their mind, a Shemitic, they're already showing they're not the original, because they know that they're not original. And then they try to align themselves with people that look like them. Thus, them people, they're admitting they're not original. Well, let me tell you something about y'all trying to align yourselves with the so-called Semitic Arabs showing images. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Do y'all know in Hebrew that Arab or Arab means evening? And it also defines a mixture of night and day. So when the Arabs get that name they have, it defines a mixture of night and day. A mixture, because they were a mixed people. They're not the real descendants of Ishmael. A lot of them are descendants of the Ottoman Turks. He don't even know the history of the Crusades and how the Euro Gentiles got into the land. You understand what I'm saying? Even when you start talking about the Palestinian and so-called Israeli war, I would never be on the side of the Palestinians nor the so-called Israelis. The Palestinians are freaking invaders, along with the so-called Israelis. The Palestinians just got there in the 7th century AD. We know the history of them. And furthermore, the word Palestine go back to Philistine, which are in fact a set of Chemedians / Camites or Hamites. So let's deal with the facts. Anybody that know Niqwadah or the Hebrew grammar or the grammatical structure, understand if you talk in past tenses, it only can be defined in the past tense. So let's look at these curses, because he's trying to apply these curses as if it applied in New Mexico. That was another thing that he did. Y'all didn't catch on. He tried to use New Mexico as a premise to talk about drought. How dumb could somebody be? First of all, New Mexico is American territory, or let me be correct, the United States, because America is really the sovereign land, but then it became a corporation in 1871, and now it's known as the United States, which is a corporation under the crown in London, England. But let's get back to the point as to what I'm saying. You're trying to use New Mexico and talk about a drought. Well, you got all different ethnic groups that live in New Mexico. You can't use that. And then it said there'll be a drought in thy land, meaning in that land of Israel. Let's read things in proper context and in content. Don't try to make it seem like you can compare. And let me break this also down. Y'all got that teaching from the One West camps, because most of you Hispanics that believe that y'all Israel are nothing but an off branch of the One West camps. I'm talking about ancient watchmen. All them false Qanath came from out of Torah Knights, when he was with our brother Judah Natural first, and then he turned coat and started teaching that so-called Negroes were Canaanites. That's false. That's false. We are not Canaanites. I can show and prove emphatically that most of the natives over here go back to the Patalian or so-called Atlantean root epic. That's a fact. They're not even descendants of Noah. Oh, the whole earth is flooded. They don't say that in the Hebrew Nikwadah, in the Hebrew grammar. It says Ratazah or Eretz, which means land or ground. It's talking about a region, not the whole planet. I'm talking of polygenesis. That's why we know that we can trace the RH monkey DNA back to what? The Neanderthalians, 850,000 BCE. We know y'all history, which broke down into Cro-Magnon. That's why when scientists do the DNA of the so-called Neanderthalians, they talk about RH monkey DNA is only found in Asians, most Hispanics, Europeans, and native tribes. And the only thing they find in dark-skinned nations is something called ghost DNA gene. Why? Because there were certain species on this planet that nations could mix with and hybrid off of. That's another story, a topic. So now, but if you do not obey Yahweh thy Elohim or Allahayim to observe faithfully all his commandments and laws, which I enjoin upon you this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and take effect. Curse shall be in the city. Curse shall be in the country. Curse shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Now, understand when you go into the Nikwadah grammar, it's talking about what's going to happen to us, but this is going to be in our own cities, in our own land. Curse is going to be our kneading bowl, because remember, when we was in slavery in the United States, remember, the kneading bowl wasn't ours, it was the slave master. What are you talking about? We took them from a far land, meaning the few that were left. That's what they talking about, the difference from us. And I'm glad that that brother Aaron broke down briefly what he could about the 400 years. Well, let me break it down. When you go into the book of Exodus or Shemot, chapter 12, verse 40 to 41, it talks about that we sojourned in the land for 430 years. And then to make it even worse, then you can go into the Septuagint. It really say 215 years, because it's a difference from being in servitude in a strange land for 400 years versus sojourning for 430 years. Only half of that, we was in the 12th dynasty, in the end of the 12th dynasty for 215 years, and we exited 1446 BCE. That's when we left the land of Kemet, and we was only slaves half that time. So if you really want to bank, then if you look at what happened to the so-called Negro in the United States from 1619 to 2019, it's the 400 years that we came by the way of Jamestown, Virginia. The difference from the so-called Negro in the United States versus the so-called Negroes that were in the West Indies and throughout the Latino communities or countries is that the so-called Negro in the United States, Judah, that be at the hand of the neck of the enemy. We came in 1619 straight from West Africa, right? Straight from West Africa to what we know as Jamestown, Virginia. What happened in 2019, right? That was the end of the 400-year captivity. Did not that devil boy, didn't that boy, what's his name, Trump, sign that 400-year bill talking about so-called African Americans commemorating our existence in the United States for 400 years of slavery. And he signed that bill with connections with West African tribes and nations who also signed that bill saying we can repatriate, right? Then in the beginning of 2020, you seen COVID take place, right? Then you see the murder of George Floyd, which was the symbolic face to Israel all over the earth, right? Then you seen the rise of Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism and the repatriation movement of Israelites returning back to the land of the promise. You see it right now. This is why y'all got to get out of there, because soon they're going to try to make it mandatory, and whoever don't take it mandatorily, they going to either put them in FEMA camps, execute cats, or cats some way, somehow go and get out of there. Like the book of Daniel said, it don't say we going to be delivered. That's a mistranslation. In the book of Daniel, the 12th chapter, it said we're going to escape. It said in that day, how we would escape when Mikael would come. and how we will escape from the captivity. I mean, we're going to have to break free. Yahudiym with the children, right? And with the imim, with the mothers, right? With the nashim, with the women, with the men, all of us that is willing to leave from the land of the great captivity. The Hispanic Israelites, y'all are a rubber stamp teaching from the One West camp, but in reverse. Y'all taking the One West teaching. I'm not even a part of One West, but it's clear what they did. They took the One West teachings, applied it on them, revamped a little bit, and then exit out the so-called Negroes. Well, let me ask y'all this question. Aaron, this is the question that you asked them. And by the way, this is brewed beer. I'm drinking the Heineken. Say it ain't scriptural so I can body you. Now, get back to the point, right? Ask them this question, Aaron. Don't it say in the 12th chapter, verse 7 of Zechariah that the tents of Judah would be first? And also in the book of Ezekiel, don't it say that it would be Judah that would gather up the rest of the tribes, correct? Very interesting. Now, ask most Hispanics, if we the so-called Canaanites, right? But the so-called Canaanites is the ones that taught y'all that y'all was Israel. So by default, y'all not even Israel. Because it said that the northern kingdom will be taught by the southern kingdom. See how easy it is to dismantle these guys? You see how easy it is? Because remember, the northern kingdom is going to be awoke by the southern kingdom. And when you look at the origin and development of where this argument came from, that we are the so-called Canaanites, it comes from former One West camp members or former Torah-only members amongst Black Israelites. So in that retrospect, by default, they're not even Israel. Now I see you, Claire, whatever your name is, arguing. None of y'all can fuck with me. None of y'all. None of y'all. You can go get any of your teachers. Y'all know what I do. You know what I did to Polite. You know what I did to Seti. You know what I did to Natural Tahudi. You know what I did to Young Pharaoh. You know every person that ever tried to come to me, I body them. And them dudes are easily body, y'all. And I respect them brothers. But at the end of the day, nothing can supersede Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism. Show us your leader like you try to show us that leader. Ancient Watchman try to show that corny ass leader from South America, Ezekiel. Ezekiel was a straight Spaniard, man. And and that community that y'all try to use, they don't even believe that they're the blood descendants of Israel. They believe that they're Incan converts, right? This is a fact. This is a fact. Go on F.O.P.E. Israelites on YouTube, where Ancient Watchmen never even came back to ever even challenge me about that fake ass, that community over there in South America. That joint was developed in the 50s or 60s. And this bull was a convert from so-called white Jews, but he fused Christ insanity or Christianity with Messianic Judaism, with a whole bunch of indigenous beliefs. The boy believed he was Christ. Tell him that. Tell him that. Tell him that the people that you use, that bull believed that he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. And when he died, did not his followers think that he was going to resurrect on the third day? And when he didn't, yeah, that's true there. Come on, man, he was a Marxist. And he was a politician. We know the history of this dude, man. But y'all sitting up here calling us dirty Canaanites. You crazy as hell, man. Y'all crazy, man. Do y'all even know who the Canaanites are? Or you can just look at somebody and determine we Canaanites. But do you see the illogic of that? Do you see the illogic and the non-reasoning behind the imbecile thoughts of these people, man, that think that we're ignorant? Let's keep going. Watch this. Cursed shall be the issue of your womb and the produce of your soil. It's saying your soil. When we was over here giving this devil our blood, sweat, and tears building this hell on earth, right? That wasn't on our soil. Because remember, we were brought in a foreign land. And don't try to tell me Deuteronomy 28:68 is talking about the third book of Maccabees when some Israelites supposed to have went in ships to Egypt. First of all, the third book of Maccabees is questionable, number one. If you're talking academia, that's why when you start talking about the Apocrypha books, they known as pseudopitheka. The root word is pseudo. Come on, who you think you talking to? A lot of that stuff is questionable, but that's not even the point. But even if they did, but guess what? They ain't even sell no slaves. Why you don't tell the whole story? How they didn't even sell no slaves? It don't even say in there, a man won't buy you. It say a man won't save you. Then when you look at the word Egypt, the word Egypt is a Greek word, Egyptos. That word ain't even there. The word is Mitzrayim or Martazariam, which means over troubling waters. Y'all dudes don't even know what y'all talking about. The troubling waters was when we was crossing the waters, when you're dealing with the transatlantic ocean, man. Also, when you start talking about the East African slave trade, because remember, the Arabs played the part. It was a straight global conspiracy against the children of Israel, and Amalek was involved, who in fact today are a lot of them Hispanic tribes. That's why they got that J. Hatlo group in them. Why? Because they descendants of so-called Amalekite, Edomite, so-called Jews. Facts, man. Y'all are mixed people. Y'all only came here 542 years ago. How y'all gonna tell us about us and y'all don't even know about yourselves? And like the brother said, if y'all don't want to deal with the Hebrew culture, y'all can fall back and say y'all Azteca, Mezteca, Pueblo, Huanca, huh? Stop saying that y'all can't. Mayans, Incans, rich history. Then you sit back, that's all you can do is ha, ha, ha. Just like he broke down when he was talking about y'all statues and images. Did the Most High say you tear them images down? That's prove it. That's prove it right now. Right now when you deal in archaeology, right? Yeah, you got the right one to fuck with. When you dealing in archaeology, right? When they study Mesoamerica, right? You see clearly that they find artifacts in Mesoamerica, even to the point a lot of the Mesoamerican tribes are straight homosexuals. They got thousands of statues, Ak and Akotim, huh? Akim and Akotim. They got thousands of statues of these natives with their privates sticking in the buttocks of men. Come on. They got their images and statues. But watch this. When they talk about Israelite artifacts in Israel, don't they say it's not a lot of information? Don't they say that they can't find anything, right? Now, when they talk academic-wise, they call what they find Canaanite. There's what you call Aboriginal Canaanites, the seed of Canaan. And then you have the academic understanding of a Canaanite, which in reality is Israelite. Because remember, didn't metaphorically in the scripture, didn't it say your mother was an Amorite, your father a Hittite? That was metaphorically, we were Canaan, but Israelite by seed, yes. But Canaan mentally, because we start following the customs of the other nations of Canaanites that was around us, instead of wiping them out, as the Most High said, we amalgamated within their mind state and with their women. And remember, the reason why the Most High didn't want us to mix with their women is because the women are the first teachers of the child. So if the women have the language and customs of Canaan, they're going to teach them Canaanite customs. Get out of here. What you think you booing? Y'all know who I am. I would never even talk to these guys. They not even on my level. Like this how he bodied y'all. He showed y'all, he destroyed Jeremiah. And I ain't got no hate for Jeremiah. I'm just bringing out everything. Because when they call us Canaanites, they really calling us niggas, man. On the low, we taught the Hispanics, even though it was wrong. And when I say we taught them When I teach that Hispanics, that you'll find Israelites in these lands, I'm talking about the Afro-Latinos, man. Even when you look at the original One West teachings where Chief High Priest Aria, all them original universal practical knowledge, they originally meant it as the Afro-Latinos. Later on, it became something else. Come on, why y'all don't show the dark-skinned Afro-Latinos, man? It's invert racism, man. So y'all can amalgamate with them nations, man. Get out of here. If you ain't Israel, I ain't dealing with you. Period. If you ain't a so-called Negro abstraction, I ain't dealing with you. Even in the land of Tanzania where I live at, I would never marry a sister or have my children, my sons and daughters marry anybody unless I know that tribe pedigree can go back to Israel. Period. Now in my house, like these guys ain't even there. When these guys practice circumcision, all my sons been circumcised on the 8th day. All of them, except my youngest, because as y'all know, he was a preemie. So we had to wait. So what you talking about, man? Yeah. Rabbi Baruch ben Yahuda from Bnei Adat in Brooklyn, New York, circumcised my children, my sons, on the 8th day. Yeah. Show me yours. I'm showing y'all that we're really following the culture. We return back. What community do y'all have in the Hispanic community like Dimona? I ain't got nothing like that. Y'all ain't got no, what leaders do y'all have that show that y'all Israel? Because remember, if you look at COINTELPRO, Stop the Rise of a Black Messiah, who would electrify the nationalistic aims of Black America, why did J. Edgar Hoover create the counterintelligence program to stop the rise of a figure that reminds this government of a Messiah? You want to know why? Because that Messiah would be outlined in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 36. It says, I will send you and your king into a strange land which neither you nor your fathers have known. And there you will worship idols, either wood and stone. And I will make you become an object of horror, a proverb and a byword amongst the nations of the earth. Interesting. It says, I sent you and your king. So there must have been a line of anointed kings amongst the midst of the so-called Negroes. That's why they was like, was it Malcolm? Was it King? Was it Huey? They was knocking all of them down because even the so-called white man knew that a Messiah or an anointed figure or somebody of the characteristic of out the scripture would come from the so-called Negroes. Not y'all. Everything the so-called Negroes did, the Hispanics rode the coattail on them. Come on. If you had the Black Panthers, you had the Young Lords. Come on, man. If you had, you know what I'm saying? If you had Grandmaster Flash, you had Kid Capri. Now, I'm not, insulting anybody's intelligence. And then when you actually, then you got, what about Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford, who came 1913? He's the first one to distinguish the difference from being a Hebrew versus so-called Jew. Now, let me throw something at y'all that y'all don't know. Now, we know through the distortion, people think Jews and Israelites are the same, right? So for a long time in the old books or records, when they talk about the Hebrew Israelite community in the Americas, they say Black Jews. So as time developed in the 1970s, 1977, you had groups of leaders throughout the United States that went to Chicago. It was Rabbi Richard Nolan, the late Rabbi Hodges, Prince Asiel, all these different leaders. They came together and said, to distinguish us from the Jew. This is historical fact, I'm telling you. To distinguish us from the so-called Jewish population, we are going to say or title us, we're Hebrew Israelites. Why? Even though that term Hebrew Israelite, you're not going to directly find it in scripture, but what you'll find in the scripture that the Hebrews are Israelites, but all Hebrews aren't Israelites. But when they're talking about Yisrael, they're Israelites, and Israelites are in fact Hebrews. going back to Eber. So to say what I'm saying is this: the so-called Hispanic Israelites that call us Canaanites don't even know that the term Hebrew Israelite came from those that you're calling Canaanites. See, you see how we knocking these guys in the head continuously over and over? We have the historical backing to prove our stance. Y'all know, this is why I'm saying we can this is no longer a game no more. Y'all are cultural bandits upsuring somebody else's heritage. Even to prove what I'm saying is facts, even look at their names. I use the Lashawan Qadish on Facebook, but if I could translate it in Sephardic Hebrew, which is Shar would be Sar, Landin Ben Ami would be Ben Ami, Matazorian would be Mitzrayim, Ben Yasha'ala would be, or Ban Yasha'ala would be Ben Yisrael. The point that I'm trying to show is when you talk about these Hispanics saying they Israelites, why do they have names, Lashawan Qadish names, and we know that it was originally called the Writing of AREA, and later on it was Lashawan Qadish, because Chief High Priest AREA started studying certain Semitic languages and found that the root sounds had either an R or an I, so he took out believing that there were no vowels, which is impossible. All languages have vowels. Yes, it's a language of, it has letters of consonants, but it has vowel overtones. All languages have that. The point that I'm saying is that understanding of Hebrew comes from UPK, and they're using it. But these things were developed by people that you calling Canaanites. That's my point. This is why there's really no need to even argue with these dudes, because when you look at their source of information, it comes from the people that they saying that are Canaanites. What did they create that was original? What, calling us Canaanites? Y'all didn't create that. The Mormons was calling us Canaanites and the cursed seed of Cain. So how's that new? You see what I'm saying? Now, the brother said, true, the Most High name were vowels. Now, some people teach that based on when they talk about the Tetragrammaton, the Uawahe, and they go to Josephus, they misunderstand what Josephus is saying. The vowels, how the Greek said it, was that vowels. You see what I'm saying? But the brother's still correct. We did have vowels, but not in the sense of the Tetragrammaton having the Greek sound. I just want to make that clear. But getting back to my point, yeah, the basement's Hebrew language. Yeah, I'm hip to that. But that's the Greek sound. When you read that in the book of Josephus, what you just said, it's letting you know that's basically how the Greeks sound the Tetragrammaton with their vowels. You see? We're getting to that another time. But let me quench my thirst. So like I was saying, when we study everything that they're using, they're just reversing it and saying we not them. Just like you're talking about Ozarith. Everybody that really do research know that's not the Americas. And that what you do is you deal with comparative study. You see how I'm saying? You deal with comparatives. Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. I ain't gonna focus on that. But yeah, I beg to differ on that. But I'll do another live on that. I say from the oldest information, and me being on the ground in Africa, the oldest information I come with is Yahweh. You know what I mean? That's a different story, a different topic. I'll do another live on that and some research on that. And you know what I mean? Much respect to your research. So getting back to my point, right? So all this information we see, Ozareth, anybody that know and deal with primary sources from the 2nd century CE to the 6th century BCE, the 3rd century BCE, Ozareth, okay, was Northwest Africa. They ain't had nothing to do with the Americans, man. And I know y'all trying to use 2nd Ezra 13. There wasn't no ships, man. Come on, man. Not through the narrow path. Come on, man. Stop that, man. A lot of them narrow paths you can walk through. See, these guys haven't even been over the east, man. I done been there, you know, Zanzibar, Israel, Tanzania, all over. That's what I'm saying. These dudes haven't been over. Anybody that was in the Iraqi war, listen, go to any soldier that was in the Persian Gulf over in Iraq. They know when they read that verse, and if they hear what they're saying, they'll laugh because they know that ships can't go through that. That's what I'm saying, man. Now, people will say, damn, we coming at these dudes. No, it's about the facts, man. It's about the facts. Let's keep going. It says, curse shall be in your comings and curse shall be in your goings. Yahweh will let loose against you calamities, panic, and frustration in all the enterprises you undertake, right? That you undertake, so that you shall soon be utterly wiped out because of your evil doing and forsaking me. Let me show you what he did. Even though at this moment it's talking about our land, now it's starting in this verse to venture out and to, even when we be in captivity, we're not even going to prosper. But I'm going to show you what he would do. He would do something like this. The brother Jeremiah's. Now, I got something here so y'all can see. Hold on. Do I got it? Let me see if I got it here. Okay, I do got it. So when you go here, I'm going to use this as an example. The African Edenic heritage, right? So when you go to, let's deal with, for instance, the dispersal. So let's say if you see a verse like that and it talk about frustration and everything we undertook, I'll be able to, let me show y'all so y'all can see. I can say something like, time, September 16, 1991. Why do blacks die young? Now remember Deuteronomy 28, 22. I'm showing y'all what he's doing. Yahweh shall smite thee with a consumption and with a fever and with an inflammation and with extreme burning and with the sword and with the blasting and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee into thy parish. Remember I said time, September 16, 1991. A man living in Bangladesh, one of the poorest nations, have a better chance at reaching 65 than a man in Harlem. Isn't that what it just said right there? Let's keep going. Let's go to why do blacks die young? Again, time, September 16, 1991. The average life expectancy of African Americans is 70.3 years, much less than the 76 years that white Americans can expect. The gap between white and black has remained wide, and it increased sharply during the Reagan years. See what I'm doing? Let's play this game again. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, 35. Yahweh shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with the sore blotch that cannot be healed from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy heel. Oh, let me see if we can do that too. If we want to do it like you, verse looking at it as it was written in the past tense, in the sense that it already happened in our land. But if you're talking similarities, well, let's do what you do. Let's go to the African American cancer crisis, part 2, the problem, journey of health care for the poor and underserved. Serve, Volume 4, Number 2, 1993, page 101. The African American cancer crisis represents the most significant epidemic health event adversity affecting the African American population in the 20th century. Can I go to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services National Cancer Institute 1992 SEER Program Statistical Manual NIH publication number 192/2789, which reads, the extent to which blacks experience higher cancer mortality than whites is striking. Not only do blacks have higher mortality rates than whites, right? But the mortality rates are increasingly faster. Let's go back to the African American. See, I'm giving actual, real primary, not this blanket statement. See, what you was doing, Jeremiah, is taking the prophecies that applied in the land and you was applying it like to things that you say that went on in Mexico or whatever the case. And remember, Aaron, the reason why Aaron said, oh, this can apply to anybody, right? If you saying it like that, even though the difference is all the curses fit us. And I love how he used Leviticus 26 with Deuteronomy 28. That was real good on Aaron's behalf. And then he showed you the difference from plagues, curses, colonialism. No, let me tell you, Jeremiah, your ancestors, if you're a descendant of Aztecs, they were colonized. There's a difference. Remember, we was taken completely from our land. Come on, man. Let's get it. It says, let's look at this. Let's look in the same book. Over the last 2 decades, black men have suffered a 22.5% increase in colon cancer mortality. African American males have the highest prostate cancer incidence in the world. They have a 60% SS incidence compared to white males and more than 2 times the mortality rate. During the 1980s, the greatest increase in lung cancer incidents were among black women, right? That's in the same book on page 86. But you know what's real deep? That I seen verse 61 of Deuteronomy 28. Also, every sickness and every plague, which is not written in the book of Torah, then will Yahweh bring upon thee, right? Until thou be destroyed. Now, if I wanted to, go there, more than half of all AIDS cases are black children. And 2/3 of the women who are stricken with AIDS are African Americans. Black babies are more than twice as likely as white babies to die in the first year of life. This infant mortality rate is higher than those in many third world countries. Interesting. Now, that was in the Alive and Well in the Essence magazine, December 1993, page 74. Interesting. Let's go to Africa Report, July, August 1990, page 6 and 7, which reads, Africa has the lowest life expectancy, highest infant mortality, lowest literacy, and highest population growth rate in the developing world. Poverty in Africa increased by 2/3 in the first half of the 1980s, so that more than half the continent's population is now living in absolute poverty. Interesting. But if you understand the Bantu expansion of 1000 BCE, you really, and between 1000 to 722 BCE, you really talking about the Israelite exile, right? Because we know many of the northern kingdom went into East Africa. We have the Yahudiym and different tribes that live in Mount Kilimanjaro. We got the Sagas over in India. We got Israelites in Afghanistan, all East Uzbekistan. We even got Israelites in China and Japan, based on the migration of the northern kingdom, right? all throughout East Africa, West Africa. The Southern Kingdom went there. Come on, and even remnants of the Northern Kingdom. Why you think when you go to Nigeria right now, you got what is known as Bani Ephraim that been there for 2,900 plus years. They Torah is in parched, man, and Hebrew, and Aramaic, and it can't be changed. They don't know nothing about, you know why they don't know nothing about the so-called Babylonian Talmudic teachings? Because they came by the way of the Syrian captivity. Fact, bro. Just the Yoruba natives that are not a part of Israel call them Emo or Qumran, which means the strange people. But they themselves call themselves Bene Ephraim. And they live in southern Nigeria to this day. You can go do the research on these people, man. What are you talking about? Why? Okay, if this is y'all culture, why we don't see the evolution of the Hebrew language over here? Now we talking linguistics now. These guys is a joke. Talking about they want to debate. You kidding me, man? Show me, come on, man. Aztecan can't understand somebody that speak Ivrit. Come on, man. Get the hell out of here. And don't tell me that, oh, that's Yiddish. These guys are dumb. They saying that modern Hebrew is Yiddish. No, it's not. Yiddish is Yiddish. Yiddish is a combination of Polish, French, German with certain Hebrew phrases. Why? Because the Edomites is what created Yiddish. That's what people don't even know. You had the true Hebrews that were in Iberia. A lot of them got shipped off to the island the same time off the west coast of Africa. What y'all talking about, man? This is crazy, man. This is crazy talk. Sephardic Hebrew and Yiddish is two different things, man. Come on, stop being stupid in front of people. And the Lashawan Kwadash was created by Chief High Priest Ariah out of the original universal practical knowledge from 125th and Madison in Harlem, New York. Stop, man. UBK came in 1969, but there were already Hebrew communities in the United States 100 years plus before UPK even came around. Fact, Nasi Rob. What I'm saying is this. Yes, there are Israelites amongst the Hispanic population, but they're the Afro-Latino, man. That's why when you take the E1B1A-EMC haplogroup, it's all over the world, man. It's all over the world. This is a fact, man. You can go to Europe, it's there. Australia is there. China, Japan, North America, South America. The E1B1A DNA is all over the earth. Don't the 64th verse, DEUT.28, say that we will be scattered amongst all the nations. That's why the young brother asked you the question. Whoever is left, that's what's going to be scattered amongst the nations. And the Hispanic community was not scattered amongst the nations. The Hispanic community is a amalgamated community that was developed through colonization and transportation of slaves. Fact, man. Shemotep, sister. Shalom. Ashe. Mujambo. What are you talking about, man? I don't know what you talking about. They've been stealing our heritage, saying they Yisrael, but you insult us, but y'all ain't putting no fucking footwork. Where your leaders at? You got us over here. You got the Goshen community. You got Kohen Mikael Ben Levi, the Hebrew family / South American jurisdiction of the Kingdom of Yah. Kohen Mikael and their community been over there since 1978. Kohen Mikael Ben Levi originally from Brownsville, New York. I don't know. Y'all, he come from out of Hashava. Show us a Bene Adat amongst the Spaniards. Show us a Shema. Show us a DCB. Show us a UPK. Show us any. Come on, man. This stuff was all created from black so-called, but the original children of Israel that you constantly slander, calling us dirty Canaanites. That's why I'm dismantling what you believe in. Because I'm saying emphatically that the young boy destroyed you. While he was offensively debunking you, he was defensively showing us that we was Israel by them not even fitting the curses. And he was saying this only fit us. So he destroyed you, period. Hands down. He decapitated you, man. And the way he did it was so genius at such a young age. I'm an OG. I'm telling you, man. This the mighty Hebrew. I'm telling you, you demolished him. And anybody that really listened to that without no biasness, and yeah, they're bound to affect the Israelites. I'm on the ground. Why is it out here that they got Hebrew traditions over here? But when we study the Native American, they don't got no, just because y'all see them wearing fringes. See, they wearing fringes. Come on, man. When you break down the word, it's zigzot, which means to bond as in a braid, the cord of blue. That's why we have it on the four corners or around the garment. Just because there were different tribes that wore fringes, but they had no cords of blue. Come on, man. Stop that. Stop lying. The Aztec, when you, listen, let me break this down to y'all so y'all know where this information come from. Y'all see them pyramids like in Central America that they say that the Mayans built. And then you go to South America, they say that the Incans built that. None of that shit is true, yo. That stuff been there before they even got there. Listen, the Aboriginal people, this really started 850,000 BCE. When the Romorhos from Madagascar, 5.5 million BCE, migrated into what is now called West Africa, they created Patala, which became known as Atlantis from either Tamanadu, or what they call the Atlantic or the Lemurian root epic. When they built that empire, it was established 4.5 million BCE. It stretched to South America, which the archaic records say in different books, such as the stanza of the Zion records, portions of the Qanath, and different mythological stories all over the world, right? Through the archaic symbolisms, you can see this, right? And you see in their records that it stretched to South America. They call it City of the Golden Gates, 850,000 BCE. Our pre-Shemitic ancestor, Shemjaza, he was the one that developed pyramid power to stop the sorcery that was taking place. He taught a group of aboriginals known as the Tavaklis, 410,000 BCE, the Tavaklis in South America start teaching it to the pre-Toltecs that was known as the Nakal Society that came from out of Ruta, which was an island around the South American area. They wind up going into what we know today as Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt came by the way of the Nagas that come from out of Tamal, from the southern Indus Valley. This is before the descendants of Noah even existed. They was using pyramid power for wickedness. This is why the Most High had the first flood 800,000 BCE, the second flood 200,000 BCE, the third flood 80,000 BCE, and Noah's flood 9,564 BCE. That was the destruction of Ruta, which Plato called Poseidon or Poseidonus, man. A fact, dumb natives, them Aztecs, them Incans and Mayans, they are descendants from the seventh sub-root epic of the fourth root epic of Atlanteans, known scientifically as Mongols. That's a fact, man. They're not descendants of Noah. Noah come through out of the line of the Romorhos, the Lemurian Romorhos that developed the Atlantean Empire and later on developed what we know today within our epic post-Torah, meaning when you look at the descendants of Noah, now you start talking about the descendants of Ham, the descendants of Shem, the descendants of Japheth. But all nations on this planet don't come from Noah. They don't. There are other people on this planet that come from a whole nother line, other lines, or what I consider within Hebrew cosmogenesis and Hebrew anthropogenesis, polygenesis. They're not descendants of our people, man. They are hybrid through amalgamation of mixing with species. That's why they find in certain genes in different nations that don't exist on this planet. Why? Because there were other species that people were amalgamating and sexing that don't even exist today. That's why we know that our Africa theory ain't true. That we know that we've been on this planet before Africa even existed as a continent. That's why we called it in the Atlantean Hebraic vernacular Grobansi, because it was under, even the Kemetic people talk about how their lands was underwater 3 times. Come on, 4th time. They told Solus, the priest of Kemet, told Plato that. So don't act like that ain't true. Getting back to y'all, since y'all want to keep talking as if y'all fit the curses. Well, let's go to Leviticus, chapter 26, verse 17, which reads, "And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies." That was talking about when the Assyrians came and invaded us 722 BCE. The Babylonians, when they came 586 BCE. When the Medo-Persians came 444 BCE. When the Greeks came 330 BCE. When the freaking Romans came 146 BCE with that wicked ass nigga Mark Antony. The hell with Alexander the Small. He wasn't great to our people like Hohen Mikael said. He seized our people. On my level, want to debate me? You crazy. I'll rip you out the frame. Man, you think Young Boy bodied you or any of y'all? Man, I will demolish you totally because y'all don't know history. Y'all don't have facts. Y'all sitting up here option up somebody else's history. What makes me so angry, right, is when we have these discussions, some of the brothers from the One West camps, not all of them, they attack myself, F.O.P.E, talking about why we stirring up confusion. But not one time did any One West school of thought rise up against these Hispanics that are calling us Canaanites. But we supposed to be the Southern Kingdom. Yeah, okay. That's how you know it's a hidden agenda. Then you got to remember a lot of these camps are under a 501c3. They need the freaking members. Come on, man. Your leaders is selling you out for trinkets, man. For kisef or kasap, however you want to pronounce it. I'm still waiting for somebody to say, "You're drinking a beer that's not lawful. It's brewed. Heineken is brewed." I wish somebody would say that so I can use the scripture to body you. You hear me over here, sis? I'm over here waiting for these guys to say, "Oh, he's drinking a beer." Yeah, Heineken. Yeah, ain't that lawful in Torah? Yeah, say it's not. Yo, let's read about I have 10,000 recollections. Because Leviticus 26:17 says, "And I will set my face against you, and you shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you." Come on. Over in Mexico, it's your own people killing yourselves. Y'all got Mexican cartels, all that run the government over there. It's your own people. But this right here says that we will be slain by our enemies, and they that hate us should reign over us. What are you talking about? You see how dumb this argument is? Oh, this right here. They took what they learned from the One West camps, applied it to themselves, and exited out the so-called Negro. That's all they did. That's all they, look at their teaching method. They teach just like One West, or they try to anyway. Just like it. That's how you know it's all fraud shit. And they ran with it. They didn't even know that Rabbi Bivens, right? Let's break this down. If you're talking about the 12-tribe chart, because that's where your ideas is coming from. That John flawed. Anybody that know history know the 12-tribe chart is flawed. Anybody that know real history, they know that 12-tribe chart is flawed. How you going to say Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans? Come on. 88% of Puerto Ricans are our haplogroup, man, and they go back to Spain. But you sitting up here talking about the so-called Puerto Ricans that's broad. What you mean, the Afro-Puerto Ricans that can trace their lineage back to E1B1A that came by the way of the transatlantic slave trade? That's what you're talking about. Now, am I saying all the slaves that came over in the West Indies, islands and Latino islands and countries are Israel? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying Israel was in the mix of that. But what I am saying is that the so-called Negro that came straight from Africa to the United States, 1619, all of them were Israelites. All of them were Israelites. Absolutely, you do got a lot of Gadites in South Africa. Fact. And you know what's different from the Gadites that live in South Africa versus those that they say in the North American Indians? You know what's different? The difference is this, that they have migrational pattern traditions. Now you got to hear what I'm saying. This scientist by the name of Dr. Jacob Kleiman is the one that came up with what is known as the CMH of the Cohen model haplotype. And in his mind, he felt as though he can trace lineage by the way of the markers that were being shown on the Y chromosome back a certain amount of generations. Okay. Now, the problem with them is when you start to study the year's J1 haplogroup was more closer to Kurds and Turks, right? This is why you had Shalom Hussein write the book, The Invention of the Jewish People, because scientists amongst the Israelis themselves, even at the Johns Hopkins Institute, show that the said Jews of the day, most of them are Khazar. That's a fact. This is now when you study people like the Lamba, which is predominantly E1B1A, but they try to fusion that J1 haplogroup, right? But when you study their oral tradition, their genetic code on the Y DNA through the amalgamation and the traveling aligns with their story going back to Israel. No European Jews have ever done that. When you study the Igbo of Nigeria, they talk about their ancestor Eri. Eri is outlined in the 46th chapter, of Bereshit, Genesis. They have oral traditions that prove that there is, and they even have artifacts. Anybody that understands what's going on, the Barfar and all that, they'll understand that that was the rising of Israelites because of what was going on. There was ethnic cleansing. They made a movie, Tears of the Sun, with Bruce Willis, how they was messing with or dealing with the natives, ethnic cleansing. He destroyed the Israelites that were among the Igbo. That's why most Igbo, they claim Israelite heritage. Now, what happened when the so-called Jewish man found out that the Igbos were declaring that they were Israelites, right? That they were Israelites. They sent the Jewish man to convert. And when I say Jewish man, I'm talking about their associates, to convert them to Judaism. That's how they got involved in Judaism. The same with the Falasha. The Falasha were upholding Hebraic customs. And when the so-called year came, they converted them to Judaism. And they lost their Hebraic customs. Now one might say, oh, so do you have any sources to verify? I sure do got sources. Let me show you a real primary source, brother. Yeah, let me show you a primary source. Because I don't think cats don't know what a real primary source is. So I'm going to show y'all what a primary source is. Hold on. Let me show you real primary sources to prove that we are Israel. Okay? So I'm in a primary scholar book right here. It's called Pre-Colonial Black Africa, page 233. Guess who wrote this? Sheikh Anta Diop. I'm going to use Afrocentric scholars to prove my case. PhD. Didn't Sheikh Anta wasn't he the founder of Carbodatum 14? Yeah, let's get it. From Senegal. You don't know who you're dealing with. Let's hear what they say. This is what Sheikh Anta says. According to the Tariq El-Fatah, an Israelite minority. Now, if y'all don't know, the Tariq El-Fatah is the history of the Sudan that was written in 1652. Okay, we talking eyewitness accounts in West Africa, right? Watch this. According to the Tariq El-Fatah, an Israelite minority also lived in the bend of the Niger region of Tendorma and had made a specialty of cultivating vegetables watered with fresh well water instead of river water. That's from Sheikh Anta Holmes. Let's go deeper. I'm about to go to the ball. Can I get an amen from Dr. John Henry Clark? Let's go into an introduction to Alfred J. Butler's book, The Arab Conquest of Egypt in the Last 30 Years of the Roman Dominion, right? And because you know John Henry Clark, he wrote the introduction. What does he say? Roman exploitation, taxation, and ruthlessness caused a lot of the original Africans in North Africa to move further into the body of Africa. The question is often asked, what happened to North Africa's black population? This is part of the answer. So Dr. John Henry Clark says that the original black population of North Africa went into the body of Africa. Now, one might say, all right, like let's say a so-called Hispanic Israelite, he might say, yeah, you quoted Dr. John Henry Clark, but he never said with African tribes. You're right, he didn't say it there, but he damn sure tells us in Notes for an African World Revolution, Africans at the Crossroads on page 276. What does Dr. John Henry Clark say? Well, let me show you. There is a need now to study the migration of the Jews after 70 AD, meaning the Israelites of the Southern Kingdom. Remember, there's no J in the Hebrew. And furthermore, we ain't call ourselves Jews. And technically, the only true Jews would be from the tribe of Judah. Let's keep going. Let's get it. There is a need now to study the migration of the Israelites or the Southern Kingdom after 70 AD, when the Romans destroyed their temples. It sounds like this is aligning with Brother Aaron's statement. Remember, they would destroy all our temples, but y'all got y'all say y'all pyramids, statues, idols. Y'all got y'all culture, museums, all that, right? Shit, they can't even find Solomon tomb. They don't even know if it's in Tel Aviv or if it's in Jerusalem today, or if that's even the real Jerusalem. They're debating this today. We have archaeologist Joshua Mario that live over there in Tel Aviv, and he has archaeological facts proving that Solomon's temple was in Arad. I ain't even gonna go there. Don't play with me, man. Don't play with me. You play games if you want. We got archaeologists that disprove what you're saying, right? Watch. There is a need now to study the migration of the Israelites after 70 AD. Ancient watchmen, when the Romans destroyed their temples and started the dispersal of the Israelites, Jews of that day. Where indeed did they go? There is some evidence that some of them migrated south into the body of Africa. Checkmate. Checkmate. So Sheikh Anta used primary sources of eyewitnesses from the book. Let me make sure I have that correct. So it's not as if I'm making up anything. Yes, the Tarek El-Fatah of 1652. Eyewitness accounts that Israelites were in the Niger bed, man. So where them Israelites at today? If they not there no more. Come on, man. This is a joke. This is a joke, man. For real. Shout out to my Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalistic brother, Dark Low. Go listen to his new album. Go on YouTube, type up Dark Low 2021. Shout out to Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationals where I'm from in North Philly. Live and direct in Tanzania, East Africa, the promised land. While you arguing, debating about you being an Israelite, knowing you got that from so-called black people, then try to flip it, try to say we the Canaanites. Well, we got Dr. John Henrik Clark saying something different. We got Sheikh Auntie Dia saying something different. Let's go there. Then y'all try to use Joseph. Let me also share about Hebrewisms of West Africa. Y'all don't even know how to use that book. What ancient watchmen do, they'll look for certain sections where there's a hypothesis that says that we're Canaanites. Not understanding that's not what Joseph J. Williams is saying. That's not even Joseph J. Williams saying it. Joseph J. Williams compiled a comparative study. That's why when you get the book, Hebrewisms of West Africa, you read the footnotes, it's the commentary. It's different sources giving you their opinion as to where the origin of so-called Negroes come from. But I am going to tell you what Joseph J. Williams did say, if that's what you want to hear. Well, you need to go to page 23 and hear exactly where Joseph J. Williams said. You taking verses or phrases or paragraphs or statements from others that he's putting up there, giving you their comparative study. Hebrewisms of West Africa is just a book of comparative study about the origin of the so-called Negroes going back to the Hebrews. That's it. You went and ran because you seen something in the book that say, oh, we Canaanites. You thought Joseph J. Williams said that. That was just somebody giving you the argument by the way of comparative study. But you're not a researcher. And because of that, you ran dumb. So I'm going to show you what Joseph J. Williams said. Page 23, this is his words. Long before the destruction of Jerusalem by Titus, the Mediterranean shore of Africa had become lined with influential Israelite colonies, which undoubtedly were in constant mercantile relations with the interior of the Dark Continent. But Egypt especially had been a haven of the refugees from Jerusalem. At the time of the Babylonian captivity and for many subsequent centuries, the Israelite element in the land of the pharaohs continued to increase and prosper. Let's continue on. Let's go deeper. On page 355 of the same book, his own words, Joseph J. Williams, somewhere in the dim past, a wave, or more probable, a series of waves of Hebraic influence swept over Africa, leaving unmistakably traces amongst the various tribes where they had endured even to the present day. Didn't he say, come on, man, y'all tripping, man, listening to these guys, wasting y'all time with these guys. Which 64 say, the 64th verse, Deuteronomy 28, Yahweh shall scatter you among all the nations from one end of the earth into the other. And there you shall serve other powers, even wood and stone, whom neither you nor your ancestors have experienced. Come on, man. We came singing Kumbaya. Let's talk about that. You know the word Kumbaya means come to me, y'all. But you know the origin of that goes back to Angola. Very interesting. There are communities in Angola that are descendants not only from Israelites that migrated from Israel straight to West Africa, but also Israelites that were placed in the island of San Tom off the west coast of Africa. Very interesting. When what? King John, right, of Portugal in 1884 exiled our ancestors there, right? Let's talk about it. Because we didn't want to be baptized in the name of Jesus Christos, right? Come on, man. These guys is crazy, man. These guys ain't the people, man. These guys not us, man. You got to hear what they're saying. They're saying because listen to the psychology behind how they see us as Canaanites. It's based on racism. Oh, y'all better basketball players, football players, y'all dance better. These are all the attributes that Europeans looked at us to develop a pseudoscience. And in that, in their mind, was the development of genocide through Planned Parenthood. Go get Medical Apartheid. Go get that book. Go get the book Without Sanctuary. Y'all ain't never experienced what we experienced, man. Come on, man. These guys are a joke. And you really don't want to know what it means about Genesis chapter 9:26. Let me go there real quick. I gotta go there. Y'all been using that to try to say we the curse seed of Canaan. That joint cold mistranslated from the heat. Yo, you know that where it says where Japheth shall be enlarged, it don't say, it says and Japheth shall be deceived or enticed. This isn't it. Come on, man. This guys is silly. Let me show y'all something real quick that people be missing. Watch this. Go real quick to chapter 9, verse 26, right? I'm gonna throw something at y'all, right? Because these guys, man, they haven't really dealt with no real scholars in Israel highly like that. They dealt with a few, and them few that they dealt with always bodied them. It's funny, right? When you look at chapter 9, verse 26, right? It says, and he said, blessed be Yahweh Elohim of Shem, right? And Canaan shall be his servant. So I'm like, damn, and Canaan shall be his servant, right? And I notice they always say that, right? And then verse 27, it popped at me. It says, Yahweh shall entice Japheth. It don't say enlarged. That's another story. Because the word rabbah in Hebrew is enlarged. The word is patah. Patah in that verse, which means to deceive or to entice. Go look it up. Even though I don't deal with Strong's Concordance, because the Strongs don't translate how the Hebrew text is translated. It translated based on how the King James Version was translated. Get out of here. That's Christian rhetoric. But even the Strongs even tell you that the word is patah and not rabbah. But they continue on. What's so interesting about this verse is verse 27. How Elohim shall deceive Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, right? And Canaan shall be his servant. So I always hear these cats talking about how we the curse seed of Canaan. And Canaan shall be his servant, right? And he shall be a servant unto his brother. Remember, verse 25 says, and he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants, and he shall be a servant unto his brethren. So I said, damn, who is his brethren? So I go to verse 6, chapter 10 of Genesis. And the sons of Ham, right, is Cush, Mizraim, Punt, and Canaan. So who is Canaan's brethren? Could it only have been the Hamites that enslaved the Canaanites like that? It's funny how when you do study a lot of the Hamitic history, you'll see that a lot of the Canaanite tribes were in servitude to different Hamitic nations. Even in archaeology, you can see that Kemet had Canaan in servitude. Even when you look at the art of Canaan, you can see it come from Kemet. Come on, man. These guys is crazy, man. These guys is what? His brother that enslaved him were other Hamitic tribes, man. That whole story, curse, because in his mind, you know what I mean, this is why the white nations had y'all in servitude. I just dismantled that because it didn't have anything to do with that. It said, right, exactly, Lord Emmanuel, Kemet had control over Canaan. Oh, and understand that Kemet was an empire. So that consisted of all the Hamitic, all the sons of Ham. Come on, man, get out of here, dude. You crazy, man. You thought that it was talking about the Japhetic tribes with the Shemitic tribes. No, it's talking about his brethren. And then when you read it in the context in the Ivrit, it lures you. This is why when you get to chapter 10, now it starts to define the sons of Ham. Come on, man. This guys is crazy, man. These guys is nuts, man. These guys is nuts. Give me a second, y'all. Hold on. I'm coming, y'all. Yup. So what's up, sis?
Nothing much.
What you doing right now?
Working on a couple aspects of the business that we've got going.
Okay.
In the stores. Just working on the.
What time is it?
It is 4:24.
Damn, it's 4:24 a.m. I'm back, y'all. It's 4:24. I'm just gonna be sleeping in, but we got to teach class at 10:30. So let me get to this real quick. So y'all see that, right? I'm tripping, man, off this, man. So let's get back to where I was at. Now, let's see what Ben Ami got to say, the late Ben Ami and God, the Black Man in Truth, on page 14. Very interesting. Many of the descendants of Abraham followed Moses from Egypt, but some remained in Egypt. Now, somebody said, what do you mean some remained in Egypt? Well, y'all do remember that verse when they talk about how the earth opened up and swallowed. Some people say, oh, that was the earth that opened and it swallowed them. Some say it was quicksand. You have different interpretations. Well, let's think about it for a minute. The earth swallowed them up, right? It could be them that were left behind and they were swallowed up definitely by the earth, but meaning the nations left that were around them. Then you know what kills me also? How they try to make it seem like the Israelites are the Hyksos. And then they don't tell you that there's a difference from a Hykso versus a Hykso. You got the shepherd kings or rulers of foreign lands, and then you got the shepherd captives, right? And then they try to make it seem like that the Israelites were Hyksos, right? But nobody don't never talk about when we were crossing the Jordan who ran into us, Amalek, the Amalekites. And we destroyed them, right? Then after we destroyed the Amalekites, right? After we destroyed them, we crossed over and the Amalekites went into Egypt. And remember in the Kemetic history, it says that Egypt was taken over without a fight. Why? Because after the plagues and all that, Egypt, they couldn't fight. The Amalekites took over. The Amalekites are your Hyksos. This is a fact, man. Then they try to say we were in the land of Egypt, but then they talk about Avaris. Well, Avaris is an anglicized word that means Hebrew man. Avar is a very Hebrew Ish man. Come on, man. This is easy, man. This is easy work, man. Y'all supposed to work on these dudes. Watch. Give a shout out to Jeremiah Judah Lions Den. You know what I mean? They got some of the best debates. Go check him out. Shout out to my brother Jeremiah Judah. You know, the Lions Den. Shout out to Karima, You know what I mean? Sister Karima, she be holding it down over there. You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody, man. Shout out to the Source, Solar Vision. You know, all shoot, you got Maccabees TV, Global Media Inc. You know what I mean? The Hebrew Hype magazine. The list goes on and on and on and on. Debate Talk Radio. You know what I mean? Let's go. Those migrating Hebrews explain why traces of Hebrew culture can be found throughout West, Central, and East Africa. Many scholars believe the ancestors of the Fulani, Ashanti, Iwi, Yoruba, Bantu, and other peoples were in fact early Hebrew Israelites. That's what they say. Now, you know what I mean? That's just the scholars. I'm talking about real scholars, man. Don't give me white colonialist Euro-Gentiles who had the Catholicistic belief of manifest destiny, meaning every person they conquered based on the theory, or not even the theory, based on how the Israelites were conquered of the northern kingdom, and anybody they conquered, they considered them the northern kingdom. That's why if you look at everywhere the colonizer wrote, nowhere, no, it don't matter, through Africa, Asia, anywhere where they conquered the the aboriginal people there, and even the indigenous, because that's two different things, people, they always impose, or have one of the historians impose, that lost tribe myth on them people they conquered. Because it was a part of the manifest destiny, you know what I mean, for the so-called white man to dominate the earth. So that was in the religious rhetoric. I wasn't saying y'all was really Israel, but y'all ran with that. My whole thing is, you say that Hebrew is your language, but why we can't find no evolution of it? But you can go into the Bantu speaking languages and you can clearly, the whole structure of the Bantu language, even if you look at Kiswahili, all of them, they originate from Hebrew. Come on, man. Stop this madness. But when you go to the natives, why don't you see the evolution of the Hebrew language? So they will have artifacts of the evolution. And don't tell me about the Los Lones inscription and New Mexico and Hidden Mountain. Don't do that. Everywhere where they found like the Davenport Stela, the Long Island inscriptions, all these different Hebrew artifacts they found in America were connected to colonies by the way of King Solomon, with the triple alliance that he had with Hyman, king of Tyre, and the pharaoh that he married his daughter, which we know is Akhenaten. Akhenaten wasn't a contemporary of Moses, he was a contemporary of Solomon. And the only reason they got him as a contemporary of Moses, because the Egyptian chronology is off over 400 plus years. So they're misshifting history. This is a fact. Even David Rohl, even though he's a minor archaeologist, he proved that in Pharaohs and Kings. Like, come on, man. Come on. But some of those artifacts were brought over by the colonizer. Right. Why you think some of the writings that they found in what they call Hebrew, they be thinking, but the ones they found in South America was actually Canaanite. That's why they was talking about how they came on the ship and they was worshiping the god Baal. You got to remember the triple alliance that Solomon had with Hyman, king of Tyre. Even though Hyman in our coach, he is an Israelite, Hyman, in the book of Kings. He definitely was an Israelite from the tribe of Zebulun, but he ruled over a lot of Canaanite tribes. And then Solomon had an alliance with Egyptians that was fleeing over here, going back to Lake Superior, bringing the ores. Like a lot of the ores that was in Solomon's temple came from Lake Superior in the Americas. This is fact. Even Stephen Collins shows that. Even Barry Fell showed that. Yeah, right. Right. Absolutely, Aaron. That ain't got nothing to do with Hebrew. Right. Even when you start talking about their language, not their language, their traditions and creation, it don't even align with the Bereshit. The Bereshit is is dealing with scientific data. I know a lot of Israelites take the days as being literal, but if you look at it in the Sinaitic Hebrew, it means that which containeth life. So each day is really dealing with an epochs of time. These guys, man, they're not Israel, man. Because if they was Israel, they would straight relate to us. Now, you do have some Puerto Ricans that are Israelites. I'm not going to lie. You have some Dominicans that are Israelites. I'm not going to lie. But that's those that we would consider Afro-Latino. That don't mean that they have to be totally dark. But what I'm saying is you're going to know by the people's spirit, man, and what they do and how they move. And even if you want to deal with DNA, even though DNA is not always an absolute, we know this. It's just a point of direction, but not necessarily an absolute. Because some of the Afro-Latinos, they're not, because you might have somebody that's darker than me and they not even Israel. They pop can be white, boy. That's the point that I'm saying. And don't sit up here and play these games and continue to insult us, but we the ones that taught y'all. Y'all have to come to them like this, y'all. If the book of Ezekiel clearly say that the southern kingdom is going to awaken the northern kingdom of Israel, and if the so-called Hispanic population that are Israelites saying that they're the northern kingdom, right? But we're the Canaanites, by default, they wouldn't be Israel because it was Canaanites that woke them up of them being Israelites. But that's not what the prophecies say. The prophecies say that Judah will awaken the northern kingdom, that the tents of Judah in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 7 said. That's what it says. So the tents of Judah first. Who was first to go into the land? 1967, we went to Liberia, 20 miles outside of Monrovia. We stayed there for 2.5 years. 1969, we went into Israel, man. We got communities in Israel. Why haven't no Hispanics rose as a group to return back to Israel? But they the people. Don't tell me it's not time yet. If it wasn't time, we wouldn't be there. Come on, man. I'm playing games. We've been there. That was the fulfillment of Zechariah 12:7. Now we in the era of Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11 and 12. Right? That's where we at right now. We're in the second wave now. That's why we call this the second wave Exodus. That's why you seeing us coming from all over the earth. Y'all seen we just did the Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks. I mean, I have people from Kenya, from Uganda, right? Tanzania, the United States, Jamaica. We talking about all over the world. They coming into these regions now. We back into the promised land. North America, South America, and Central America is not the promised land. You want to know what that's called in the ancient writings of the Puranas, the Vag Veda and all them over there in the Indus Valley? It's known as Patala, which they now call Atlantis. You know what Patala is? It's the underworld, hell. Why? Because during certain root epics, which you know as the natives over here, the original natives, they were really outcasts from the Indus Valley. Come on, man. That's why they got the book When India Once Ruled America by Glenn Maddock. Man, I will body these cats. When you study the natives, a lot of them were outcasts from the Indus Valley in the Gobi Desert, man. That's why when you study up on the Mayans and the Incans and all that, and you start speaking Aztec and all that, why you think a lot of them Chinese linguists over there, they understand it and they can speak it because it go back to the same source. That stuff go back to the Mongolian root epic. And a lot of them Mongols, and this is where a lot of them Asian tongues come from out of. Man, come on, man. That's why a Chinese linguist can translate Aztecian, man. Come on, man. Why you think they look orient? Come on, man. Why you think they don't grow facial hair? Now, me, I don't grow facial hair because I got alopecia. Y'all see, I ain't got eyebrows, none of that. I have alopecia. But y'all look at my old pictures when I was a young boy. I had long ass dreads, all that. But them real native tribes over there in the Americas, they couldn't even grow facial hair. Come on, man. This is a fact. But y'all keep saying that y'all the people with a book. Like, again, I'm not saying that all Latinos, I'm not saying all of them are Israel. I'm saying the bulk of them are not Israel. That's what I'm saying. Period. You sitting out there talking about, oh, he lost. No. And when I'm saying, I'm not talking about Jeremiah Judah. Jeremiah Judah had to make the decision based on the judges judging, the 3 judges that they had, because the other 2 didn't show up. But 2 of them said he lost, but he didn't. They didn't. He played the offensive, defensive at one time. That's why people didn't catch on to what he was doing. He offensively was showing that he didn't fit the prophecies, and at the same time, defensively showing that we were them people. Okay, so you mean to tell me that there's no prophecy in the Torah where it says only some of y'all would come? Where I'm showing you that it says the rest of us, because those that were destroyed, naturally, they're not going to be scattered in the 4 corners. But the few that are left, they're going to be scattered in the 4 corners, all over the earth. That's what the young brother was saying. And right there, they lost. It was like, that was like the total destruction. It was like the Twin Towers was just falling. Boom, 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 boom. I was just watching him deconstruct this dude. And I'm just like, damn, ain't nobody catching on to what this boy is doing. I'm up here like, oh my gosh. And me and my Isha, we listening to this, John. I'm snapping. I'm like, he's bodying this dude. And I'm like, everybody gonna say he won. I'm thinking everybody gonna see what I see. And I'm just sitting up here. And listen, y'all know I was in Facebook jail for 7 days. Y'all know how I get down. They locked me up, so I'm on parole right now, right? So I gotta be careful. So I'm watching it. So, people already made their comments. So I just watched it tonight for me, which is still like, because it's 4:40 a.m. in the morning where I'm at right now. So I'm up there writing comments. I'm forgetting like, damn, it ain't even nobody on here right now because they already made the comments. I'm still making comments, right? And I'm like, damn, everybody going to say young boy won, right? But when the 2 said that he didn't win and 1 said he won, I mean, Jeremiah Judah, he ain't had no choice because there wasn't no other, you know what I'm saying, the other 2 wasn't there. So he can only go by what the 3 was there. Jeremiah Judah wasn't saying that he lost. He was only just saying with the judges. So I just want to make that clear that Jeremiah Judah wasn't saying that the young brother lost. But there's rules when you're dealing with a debate. If 2 and 1, okay. But the reality is, dude didn't lose. Dude did not lose, man. I want y'all to go and listen to that. I want y'all to go listen to, now go listen to it. Listen to Jeremiah's verse, Aaron. Go listen to it. And you're going to clearly see Aaron is constantly defending his stance that we are Israelites defensively at the same time as he's offensively proving that dude ain't an Israelite. That's what he's doing. I'm like, damn. So as he's dismantling him, he like, damn, you mean to tell me you saying that this happened in your land, but it says it happened in the land of Israel. In our land, this is when this happened. Boom, 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 boom. So he's saying, yeah, this is our land. What are you talking about? When you read it in the context, it says this happened in Israel. So if it's saying it happened in Israel, why are you making it like it's the Americas? Why? Because in their mind, psychologically, and remember, DNA has memorance. So in his mind, he's making it seem like the Americas is the land of the promise, but it's not. He can't see, just like when the brother the brother Aaron was breaking down how the King James Version has the books in the Old Testament out of order, which is true. That's why when you go into any Tanakh, it's from Genesis to Chronicles. But then when you go to the King James, it's from Genesis to Malachi. Even though all the books is there, but in the Tanakh, it's properly arranged by the way of the acronym Tanakh, which is Torah, Nebiim, the prophets, and Kifturim, or the holy writings, which signifies Tanakh, or the set apart writings. Remember, the word holy go back to Helios, which is a pagan deity. Qados don't even mean holy. That term is pagan, but that's another story, another topic. So when you say Holy Bible, you basically saying, the books of the sun disc. That's actually what you're saying. Because biblios mean book, and if you want to take it back further, biblio was actually quote unquote Canaanite deity. So I'm saying, like, within their pantheon. That's what I'm saying. I don't even know why y'all even talking to these dudes, because they're not making no moves like us. They're getting the name off of jumping off the bandwagon and running what they took from the bandwagon and fleeing the wagon that they took the shit from. That's all they doing. They don't have no teachers. They don't have no real leaders. None of that. All your prominent Israelite leaders come from so-called black people. Where's your Ben Ami's at? Where's your Prince Asiel's at? Where's your Yahweh Ben Yahweh's? Where's your Prince Dr. Shaliat Ben Yahudah's at? Where your Arnold Josiah Ford's at? Where your Rabbi Wentworth A. Matthews? Where your Nashi Quam's at? Huh? Where's your Kohen Yisrael Ben Levi's at? Where's your Kohen Ben Levi's at? Where they at, man? Where's your Moreh Mishael's at? Chief Naphtali. You ain't got no leaders like that. Stop lying. Where y'all leaders at? That's how y'all know this is just a new development. They don't have, where y'all communities at? That's how y'all know they not the people, man. Where y'all communities at? Show us communities. Show us that y'all have a foundational layout that we can examine. Y'all just bringing contention. Y'all ain't showing where y'all built any governmental body politics when it comes to your people saying that y'all Israel. Come on, man. But we can prove that y'all been in every corrupt government sitting in them different Latino countries, man. Come on. Why the Mexicanos treating the Afro-Mexicanos like second-class citizens over there in Mexico? Come on, man. We know the truth, what y'all doing to the Afro-Mexicanos, the Afro-Latino Mexicans over there, man. Y'all treat them like shit. Anybody that been to Mexico know I'm telling the truth, man. Y'all need to stop this, man. People that travel, they know the truth, man. They know the truth. Just like y'all lied and said, just like I read that John when it was breaking down how most of Africa would be in poverty. Y'all thinking every so-called person that live in Africa is a descendant of Ham. That ain't true. There's a lot of Shemitic tribes all throughout Africa that's suffering. And furthermore, your true so-called Africans go back to your Farites. The root word is afar, which is a Hebrew Aramaic word, which means dust soil, right? Then if you go to the 25th chapter, verse 4, didn't Midian have a son named Afar? Didn't Josephus say that the Apharites conquer your Punites or your Libyans? Everything south of Carthage, they were the Apharites. Huh? Ain't that what it said? So your true Pharite, your true so-called Africans were a Shemitic tribe known as your Pharites. The word African don't go back to Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, who y'all falsely say Leo Africanus. Publius Cornelius Scipio and Leo Africanus was two different people. Publius Scipio, when he conquered Hannibal, who was our Pharite, right? Some say he was a far right. Some say he was even from the tribe of Asher, in some records. But we know that the cartridge records do have, even Hebrewism of West Africa showed you that they have writings of Hebrew heroes. And they talk about Simeon and all that in the writings in cartridge. Why people don't talk about that though? But getting back to the point, what I'm saying to y'all is that the term African is being misused. The term African don't have shit to do with no Hamitic tribes or people living in Africa known as the Hamites. The true Africans are your Afarites. The word Afar means soil or dust, right? And when Scipio or Publius Cornelius Scipio conquered your Afarites, Hannibal or them, right? He took and added the Qanath, which became Africanus. And then later on, they born out the word Africa. That's why when you go to South Africa, you got the Africanians, which is Europeans. That's why I said if a European was born in South Africa and then he migrated and became a U.S. citizen, would he be an African American? Y'all playing these games with these people, man. That's why they stopped. The ones that was talking all that talk, they know when a real scholar is on deck. See, y'all used to dealing with these peekaboo scholars that learned on social media. They don't have no, see, I ain't got prince for nothing. I was appointed by a real prince. You know what I'm saying? These guys, you know, they just give themselves titles. They don't put in no work. They go on social media. They'll read and look at Israelites literature. Like, just like I'm looking at and hearing about this dude resurfacing vocab Malone. Just like he wrote that book, Barack Obama versus the Hebrew Israelites. You took a fictitious story that you seen from Netflix, something called Barry, and seen this fictitious character that you talking about Obama having a so-called, you took exchange of words, you call it a debate vocab, Malone. That's why when Sister Imuna and all of them was asking you, right? Yeah, you know, Divine Prospect, when they was all going on your book and you was talking what you was talking, it was fictitious because you knew it would ruffle, that title you put, it would ruffle the feathers as if Barack Obama was against the Israelites. Funny you say that though. Very interesting. But isn't Barack Obama's wife, Michelle Obama, who is the first cousin of the chief rabbi of African Jewry, Rabbi Fournier Capers? Who you think you talking to? See, this is what I'm saying. These dudes don't know our history, nothing. They just talking a bunch of talk on the southwest side of Chicago. I ain't even gonna go. Y'all supposed to know the history. The remodeling of the temple over there was helped by Barack Obama. But you didn't know that though. But you make a fictitious story, vocab, Malone. But this ain't about vocab. But I'm just showing y'all how these different cats be trying to impose lies to the newer generations that's coming in, because the newer generation's been hurt so bad, which it's our fault, man. And then the generations before us, it's their fault. And we all are accountable for where this has led to. And when I say our fault, I don't mean individual, I'm saying collectively. A lot of the youth was born in the crack epidemic. So being raised up without their parents, a lot of their parents was strung out on drugs, prostituting, in and out of prison. So a lot of the younger generation had to fend for themselves. So as they growing, they have a disconnection to the elders. And when the elders, you know what I mean, expect of today, they expect a certain form of respect, but not understanding the effects that was caused upon this generation today. A lot of this generation today been molested. A lot of this generation today been out there put on their own. You got these young women from previous generations having them when they young. So they seen their mothers having men in and out the house. I'm just showing you different examples of where affected this generation. So when this generation, some of them get into the culture, they're going to have certain things, but we as elders amongst and leaders in the community, we have to be patient, and we got to understand that a lot of the youth and even the elders have healing to do, because a lot of pain with the elders and the leaders, we were raised up, men don't cry, hold your emotions in. So a lot of things that happen to us, we hid in the dark. Whereas though this generation, they didn't have that type of structure. So whatever they feel right at the moment, they just blur out. I'm saying this because in that debate, there was back and forth between the young Lord Aaron and the elder Black Jesus Ministries. Give a shout out to Black Jesus. Black Jesus, you know, he said what he said. And as leaders in the community, we understand. But at the same time, we have to also have a balance and have compassion, because we not perfect. Listen, man, I've been doing this for 30 years and shit, I ain't perfect. And I think that's why a lot of the youth cling to me, even though I had these high types, because I never forgot where I came from. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people or leaders that get in position, they get on this high horse as if they can't be touched. And I always wanted to be that prince that the people could touch me. This is why I'm always in the mix. I like to be on ground. Every city I went to to lecture, I always went into the hood. If I was in Chicago, I went in the hood. If I was in Tennessee, I went in the hood. If I was in Philly, I went in the hood. New York, anywhere I went. LA in the hood, Washington, Tacoma in the hood. Anywhere I went, I was always in the hood, because that's where the best come out of. And I appreciate the young brother Aaron for taking the time and study, because from my research, the young brother, I think he's from Mississippi, either Tennessee or Mississippi. I think Mississippi. And it's hard down there, man. We don't even know the demographics and the socialism differences with the South versus the North. So that alone is an experience. You can have an elder from the North, let's say from Philly or New York, and he might have a young brother. He could be from Tennessee or Mississippi. Certain things may differ. And we have to be more globalistic in our thoughts to understand that we all are fighting a tremendous battle. So I just want to say, as an elder to the youth, that I apologize for the youth going, that y'all had to do certain things that y'all shouldn't have had to do. And I respect the young brother because he taking the time out to study, to try to get as close to the Most High as he can. We as elders in our community and leaders, we have to be patient. We don't want the white man to analyze our children, the so-called white man with these psychologists, things like that. It takes spiritual centered men and women, not just men. We got to stop this in Israel. Not just men. Men and women are equal, but equality don't mean sameness, as I always say. Our roles are different. Our perspectives are different, but the responsibility is shared. If there's a feminine, there's a masculine. If there's a king, there's a queen. If there's a prince, there's a princess. Period. There's always polarities. And when you bring that balance in, it'll help the young brothers and sisters. The young brothers and sisters need to see a strong brotherhood, a strong sisterhood. You see what I'm saying? To see that we're moving in accordance to Torah. And what I'm saying is, I will never, ever judge my brother in a debate based on a false pretense, because the false pretense is that the Hispanics are saying we're Israelites and that they're the true Israelites. That's a false pretense. That alone, they lose from the rip. See, this is bigger than the debate. This is personal. This is personal, because what they trying to say is, if we the Canaanites, they're basically saying everything that happened to us, it happened to us because it was the will of God for us to be a servant of servants forever at the hands of all the nations of the earth. That's why when you listen to their doctrine, they talk about how they're going to be ravaging our women and killing us. Like, come on, man, you got to hear what these people are saying, man. And then you got to hear when they be like, you dirty, stinking Canaanites, it's a racism behind. Y'all got to feel spirit and vibration and stop playing with these people. Listen, they're growing in numbers, not like us, but they're still growing in numbers. You got to look at it. You got to look at it. First, it started with Qanath, right? One person. Then you had Ayash, what's his name? Ayash, whatever his name is, and Jose Vera. Them guys came from out of One West camps. Whatever beef they had with them Pacific One West camps, they start slowly fading to black. I remember Ayash and me used to talk when he believed that the so-called Negroes were also Israel. I watched this metamorphosis, and he was getting into like a lot of the Imuni Elish tablets, the Epics Gilgamesh, and I seen him slowly falling off. I seen it. And I used to tell Ayash, I used to be like, yo, man, if you say you Israel, watch what you do. If you say you Israel, because if you're not keen to what you dealing with, you can fall in a pit and start believing in certain things that's necessarily not true. And sure enough, he did. He did. So now he is saturated in a racist rhetoric and propaganda known as the Canaanite doctrine, which you can find amongst the Book of Mormon, right? This is facts. See, our generation, I'll be 45 July 17th. So our generation, we studied directly under elders. We didn't have the internet at the time. So that's why you have your Nazi Robs. That's why you have people like myself. That's why you got your Zion Lexus. That's why you got your Nasi Yashavels. That's why you got your General Hashars. That's why you have your priest Dana Allahs. If you notice, your top scholars in Israel come from those that understudied amongst Hebrew scholars within their communities. If you notice that, versus internet scholars. Even if you look at, brothers like Divine Prospect and others, they had influences from the kingdom and different scholars and even other sources. Look at people like Walls of Jericho. Elder Bowie is the teacher of Chief Mikael, the Walls of Jericho, Hebrews in the Hood. My whole point that I'm saying is these teachers that you see today, they were influenced and they sat under the feet of Hebrew scholars. So this is why we know about how all the camps develop. We know how all the congregations develop. We know what's going on in Dimona. We know what's going on throughout West Africa. Israelites been migrating to West Africa for years, man. For years. I ain't seen a Hispanic community yet as a community leave and say, I'm going to go to Israel. Now, I've seen Jews, so-called Jews from Spain. And if they did leave Latin America, I bet you those that did, they were practitioners of Judaism. And they looked at themselves as being a part of the Jewish populace. And they didn't have nothing to do with the Hebrew Israelite culture, miscalled by vocab Malone Hebrew Israelism, whatever that bullshit is. This is why I developed Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism. Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism conquers all that. And then you say mighty Hebrew. This is how you know they don't even know Hebrew. There's no such thing as Hebrew. Even the women are Hebrew. Y'all take the H-E and y'all think that's he in the word Hebrew. But you see how illiterate they are? And then they try to say Hebrew. It don't matter what you say. I'm dealing with facts. Let's deal with some more facts, man. Since you want to go there, right? Let's go there. Since you want to open your mouth. Let's see what the so-called Jews say about us. Let's go in Jerusalem. Jerusalem Post insert. Let's go to the Jerusalem Post. April 29th, 1988. It's called Out of Africa. See, I deal with primaries. I don't play games, okay? Today, there are still millions of African Israelites and many tribes in Kenya, Zaire, Zambia, and the Congo. There are people who are circumcised, respect the Shabbat, and have a tradition of using Sukkot for a week. They say, my father taught me the Torah, and he was taught it by his father, who was taught it by his father, and on and on. Come on, man. So let's break down this circumcision. Show me where there was a collective body politic of so-called North American, South American, Central American Indians circumcising on the 8th day. You know most Native American tribes are uncircumcised. You do know that, right? You do know that though, right? Well, let me break down the dynamics of the grammatria of this situation. We're told to circumcise on the 8th day, which is the sign of the covenant, right? Cool. Okay, if you break down the tetragrammaton, it comes up to the number 26. They say 2 plus 6 equals 8. So the covenant in the name of the Creator is imprinted on the circumcision on the 8th day. Show me your congregations that circumcising their sons on the 8th day. Show me that right now. I can show you over in Demona, they circumcise all their children on the 8th day. All their children are born naturally through the Rofa. Show us your Rofa. Show us a community that speaks Ivrit or Hebrew or Ivrit or Ibri or Abardiev, whatever name they want to call it, like you see over in Demona. Show me. Show me right now. Shut up. You can't. You want to know why? Because y'all not the people of the book. Y'all act like y'all the people of the book. Y'all say y'all the people of the book. But every time we go into these inner circle and these discussions, y'all have never proved that y'all the people of the book. Only thing y'all proved that y'all took information from black people that taught y'all and y'all revamped it. Even if the information was true or false, from whatever camp, congregation, or organization you got it from, there is so-called African-American influences that y'all call Canaanite. But y'all supposed to be awoken by Judah. But damn, we the Canaanites, but we woke y'all up. Okay, let's continue on. It gets deeper, right? It gets real deep, man. Okay, let's go into the book 100 Amazing Facts on the African Presence in the Holy Bible. Let's go there. And Winston Direct Publishers Communicators Press on page 2. Look at all this information I'm just throwing out there for you. The African Edenic tribe of Judah, damn. Largest of all in the house of Israel, was the last to be dispersed from the set apart land in 70 CE. Judah wandered in Africa for over 1,000 years before most settled on the west coast of Africa, the point from which the great
slave trade to the Americas began. The land of the Ashanti in West Africa is one of the most important ancestral homes of the majority of African Americans. Let's get into some Latino history, right? Because I don't want to lead them out, right? Let's get into some Afro-Latino history. Let's go into the book by Raul there, right? Let's go into Walking with the Night, the Afro-Cuban World of Santeria on page 2. Yoruba scholars have advanced diverse ideas as to the origin of the Yorubas, some even suggesting a relationship to Middle Eastern countries. The staff of Orania, a monolith said to be 1,000 years old, that is a symbol of the Yoruba, has the Hebrew letter Yod carved near its pinnacle. Very interesting, isn't it? Let's go into the book Lost Tribes or the Lost Tribes of Myth, page 245 by Alan H. Godbey. Very interesting book. It says the Yoruba Jews, meaning Israelites from the southern kingdom, that their ancestors were driven from oasis to oasis and called themselves by the Hebrew name B'nai Ephraim. Now, didn't we talk about that earlier about B'nai Ephraim being in southern Nigeria? Oh, okay. Very, very interesting, right? Many contemporary Yoruba have spent a great deal of time dealing with the question of their origins. Some have gone so far as to postulate a relationship with Middle Eastern countries. And you can find that in Religions of Africa, Traditions and Transformation, page 50 by E. Thomas Lawson. Could we go to Rudolph R. Windsor's from Babylon, not the Babylon of Timbuktu, but the Valley of the Dry Bones, page 62. King John II of Portugal deported many of his Judeans to Angola, West Africa. Let's go even deeper. Let's go into the book The Man in the Movement, page 17, by Mary Benson, or Nelson Mandela, The Man in the Movement, which reads on this wise. At home, he, Nelson Mandela, as a child, heard of more recent events not taught in history lessons on how in 1921, General Smuts, a prime minister or the prime minister, had sent an army which massacred 163 men, women, and children at nearby Bernhardt in the Eastern Cape. Members of an Israelite sect, they have refused to move from the common ground on which they were camping. That was in 1921. Let's go deeper. That's confirmed that with Robert Edgar's book, because they chose to plant a God on page 1. On May 24th, 1924, a force of 800 white policemen and army troops gathered at a place called Bernhardt, 5 kilometers southwest of Queenstown in the Eastern Cape. The government had instructed them to confront an African prophet, Enoch, with his spiritual or religious group called the Israelites. When the battle was over, nearly 200 Israelites lay dead and many others wounded. We know this battle as the Bernhardt Massacre. Come on, man. Are y'all kidding me? Are y'all kidding me? By the 6th century, the Black Hebrew Israelites had increased in such large numbers that they were found throughout the Middle East. They had at least 2 kingdoms in southern Arabia, a kingdom in Ethiopia, large settlements across North Africa and the Sahara Desert, a kingdom just southeast of the Senegal River. There was a Hebrew kingdom of Ghana, and there were numerous Hebrew Israelite settlements all along the West African coast as far south as the country of Angola. Rudolph R. Windsor, The Valley of the Dry Bones, page 112. Come on, man. Y'all playing. Speaking of Uganda, to the west of Lake Victoria and northeast of the Virgin Congo, it has an organized native government with a tradition of 33 kings and a legendary line that traces back to King David. Come on, you can go to Herman Norton's book, White and Black in East Africa, page 248. Let's go to African Religions and Philosophies on page 333 by John S. Beatty. What did he say? Another community of African Hebraic culture is found in eastern Uganda. Members of this congregation speak of themselves as the Bayudaya of Judah. Come on, man. Let's go into General History of Africa, Volume 2, Ancient Civilizations of Africa, Abridged Edition, page 376. Let's get it. Father Joseph Brett, with his slim volume, The Hebrew in Madagascar, is convinced that there were not one but two Israelite migrations to Madagascar. He supports his arguments with several hundred comparisons between the Malagasy and Hebrew words. Come on, man. Come on, man. This is easy, man. Come on, let's get it. Let's go into Black Song, The Forge and the Flame, page 31 to 32 by John Lavelle Jr. If the American white man fancies that he was the first to teach the Bible to his black slave, he is quite mistaken. Mungo Park, also affirmed by Marlon L. Stokely, found that Fatuma, the Catholic schoolmaster, had Arabic versions of the Pentateuch, the Psalms of David, and the book of Isaiah. Why? Because at the time, during the Dark Ages, from the 5th century CE to the 15th century CE, Arabic was the language of diplomacy, but that wasn't the original language. Let's keep going. The unlearned Mandinkas entertained him with stories of Joseph and his brother, and Moses, David, and Solomon. They gave out the stories as part of their own folklore and were very much surprised to learn that white men had heard them. If many slaves already knew a great deal of the Bible, the whole pattern of the origin and development of the background of the spiritual in America will have to be reconsidered. Come on, man. Checkmate. Let's keep going. You want to see how the so-called other tribes in Africa already apologized to us on December 9th, 1994. One of the most historically significant events of this millennium took place in Aharon, Ghana, West Africa. It was the first time the African chiefs had publicly gathered pacifically to perform traditional rituals to atone for the misdeeds of those ancestral traditional rulers who helped to sustain the transatlantic slave trade initiated by European powers in the 14th century. Correspondence that you can read in the Ancestral Stews and Skins Purification Committee announcing the 1995 U.S. tour of the Ghanaian National House of Chiefs, April 19th, 1995. What are y'all talking about? Let's go to the book by Leron Bennett Jr., Before the Mayflower, A History of Black America, page 80. What Dr. Bennett say? The religion taught the slaves was a censored pablum which dealt almost always on the duties of obedience. Few slaves accepted this version of Christianity. Their God was the God who delivered the Israelites. This is like, come on, man. Let's even talk about, let's check out, the Rastafari. Let's go into the book, The Mission, the Life, Reign, and Character of Haile Selassie, page 13, by Haynes Lockhart. Let's check this out. Rastafarians are not fantasizers who consciously reinterpret their subconscious West African cultural religious attendance within an Ethiopian religio-cultural reality. The historical links evident from the conjunctures and data cited above on West Africa's link with dynastic Egypt, Ethiopia, and ancient Israel place the Rastafarian spiritual and secular views within this ancient cultural religious complex. Conceptually, Ashanti and the rest of West Africa represent the Western Hemisphere archaic but functional religio-cultural patterns deriving from the Old Testament. Man, I rest my case. So he won, man. Aaron won hands down. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing more to say about it. You know what I mean? I rest my case. You know, y'all want to make videos on me? Cool. That's all good. I understand. But the difference from me, I'm a doer. I don't be on Facebook and, YouTube just making videos and that's it. You know what I mean? I manifest movements. You know what I mean? Give a shout out to everybody that attended the the Shabawu at the Royal Palace here in East Africa, mostly Tanzania or Tanzania, however one wants to pronounce it. We will be having all the set apart festivals here at the Royal Palace. Anybody in the Tanzanian area or throughout East Africa are more welcome to come. It's definitely an honor and a privilege, to be making these type of power moves. I'm just so happy. Shalom to you. I see you, Sister Hesabat. You know how I do. I see Corlita. Shalom, sis. You know what I mean? Give a shout out to Emmanuel, Brother Raphael, Deanna, who else? Yeah. Oh, he said, Shalom, King. I always ask who was the nation of Yahweh's member. Was it Ben Ami? Yeah, the nation of Yahweh, that was Rabbi Yahweh ben Yahweh. His first Hebrew name was Moses Israel. And years before that, he was a part of the Nation of Islam. Yeah. He passed away in 2003, I believe, or 2001. It might have been 2001 when Yahweh ben Yahweh died. We know that Rabbeinu ben Ami transitioned in 2014. A shout out to Brother Aaron. You definitely won hands down. Shout out to Benai. I'm just reading everybody. Shout out to Hesabat. Shout out to Naomi Webb. That's my buddy. Yosef ben Israel. Oh man, sister. I think I'm pronouncing her name Mayada Lions Den. She be buying. Oh, who was his mentor? Oh, you talking about Yahweh ben Yahweh's mentor? From the information that I read and researched, they said that Yahweh ben Yahweh used to go back and forth to New York to the commandment keepers amongst when he was still alive. Rabbi Matthews was still, because remember Rabbi Matthews died in 1970. 73 or 75? One of them. I think Elijah Muhammad died in 1975. Something like that. I'm not sure. Because I know one of them died the same year that Bruce Lee died. I believe that Rabbi Matthews may have died in 73 or maybe 75 and vice versa with Elijah Muhammad. But I do know for a fact that Yahweh ben Yahweh was going back and forth to New York. And he was sitting amongst certain, this is when he was still a Nation of Islam member. And he was a major figure in the Nation of Islam. He was a spokesman. He was known as Hilton X. You know what I'm saying? You can type up what's Yahweh ben Yahweh in the Nation of Islam on YouTube and it'll all pop up. That's just a fact, you know what I'm saying? But we do know that Yahweh ben Yahweh was going amongst the commandment keepers. He was going amongst a lot of the Torah-only communities in Brooklyn. He was going to Harlem, different areas and learning from different sources. You know what I'm saying? But Ben Ami and all them was in the culture before Yahweh ben Yahweh was. Some people even say that he was influenced also by brothers and sisters, from not Hashava, Abeta Hebrew Cultural Center, as well as the one that Prince Asiel came out of. So, remember L.A. Bryant, who's Prince Dr. Shaliat ben Yehuda, who Masaba, our international ambassador and prime minister, Prince Asiel, was, an understudy of. A lot of people say, a lot of people was his understudy. Like, for instance, a lot of people didn't know that, Jeff Ford, that started the El Rukas in Chicago was an understudy of Nasi Yaakov from Bene Zakwen. They didn't even know they had Israelite stones back in 1976 in Chicago. So there's a lot of history that a lot of people don't even know. Even when you look at the Latin Kings, they started in Chicago. And you can clearly see Israelite influences within the Latin Kings because they talk about, you know what I mean, Yahweh, all different types of stuff in their literature. Remember, the Latin Kings was influenced by the gangs in Chicago. A lot of them gangs in Chicago were, you know, black nationalists, Hebrew Israelites, you know, Moors. So it was a combination of different things at different times. That's why if you look at the GDs, they represent the 6, right? As the Crip also represent the 6, but the Israelite represent the 6 in different times. Then you will see that you might have the Moors, they represent the 5. But so does the Vice Lords and so does the Blood. So what I'm saying, in their original form, they have foundation. But as they develop, you know, sometimes people lose focus. But that don't mean that the Jews can't be reissued and reestablished. So give a shout out to all them organizations, because I don't call them gangs, they organizations that might have later on became infiltrated by the powers that be, so then they can be gang affiliated. You know what I'm saying? But the real intention was to gather up the people some way, somehow, for some type of form of freedom, some type of freedom, justice, and equality. So like I'm saying, man, like that's all. Again, this ain't nothing ill towards Jeremiah's. I'm just saying, like, his beliefs are centered around that we Canaanites. You know what I'm saying? And that belief is a racist belief, man. It's a racist belief. And you can't get mad at us. We taught y'all. So you can't get mad at us. We never, listen, the so-called black man loved the Hispanic community. All this ain't come about until y'all just call yourselves going buck wild and disrespecting us. What you say? Is the commandment keeper still around? Yup, that's true. I mean, even if you look at Dr. York, and I heard, you know, I don't know about Dr. York being his mentor. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he might have learned some things from Dr. York, but you got to remember, himself, Dr. York, all of them learned things from the Israelites. Because you got to remember, the Israelites was there before all of them. Because you got to remember, look at 1913. You had, not even that, you had 1899. You had the Moors Zionist Temple or the Moorish Jews in Harlem, New York in 1899. In Brooklyn, New York, which later on transferred to Rabbi Herman. You see what I'm saying? In 1929. But we know for a fact that there were Israelite communities all the way even during the time of when we were still in slavery. They even got books like Israel on the Aftermath, where it talks about Israel Hill, and within Israel Hill, you add so-called African Americans. Some African Americans identify themselves as Israel and keeping the Shabbat. We got on record the reestablishment of the Passover go back to an ex-slave from out of Maryland known as Prophet William S. Crawley. A lot of people don't know the very first annual Unity Passover was in 1901 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at a place known as the Tabernacle on Broad and South. At one time, a portion of South America was controlled by black Hebrews, quote unquote black Hebrews. That was being orchestrated by Prophet William S. Crawley. They had barbershops, they had grocery stores, they had tabernacles, all that. The Hebrew Israelites were the oldest Hebrew Israelite school in the Western Hemisphere is in South Philadelphia. This is a fact. Go to any elder. the oldest standing one to this day. Guess who run that? To this day, Moses Farah, Elder Moses Farah, the one that co-authored the Hebrew Heritage of Black Africa, the one that wrote Deceiving the Black Race, the one that wrote Non-Christian Response to Christianity, and so many more books. Elder Moses Farah is a respected elder, and that's known all over the Israelite world. This is a fact. This man is in his late 80s, pushing in his 90s, and he still lectures. He still congregates to this day. Give a shout out also to Professor Rudolph R. Windsor and his brother Cole Windsor. Cole Windsor was my first Hebrew teacher. This is Rudolph R. Windsor's brother, Rabbi Cole Windsor. Rabbi Cole Windsor was a Hebrew teacher to the great Dr. Morey Yoel ben Yisrael. We got the history. We was with these elders face to face. So these guys that come on social media that talk, they're going to say, I don't care what elders you sat under. That's how you know they don't respect the Torah. But let me show you what the Torah say. Let me show you what the Torah say. Look at what the Torah says in the 32nd chapter. See, this is what they're not doing. I'm going to show you what they're not doing. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of ages past. Ask your father, he will inform you. Your elders, they will tell you. So if you ain't got no elders, man, who y'all elders? Y'all just self-appointed. Y'all go on Facebook, social media, YouTube, the internet, start popping up some stuff. Y'all read the information. Then y'all self-appointed. That ain't what the Torah say. It say go to y'all elders. Y'all did. Y'all came to us, the original man. That's who y'all came to. The original Shemitic Asiatic black man, as the late most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe. Fact. Not the Most High, but we are Elohim of the multiverse. Fact. Damn, where did all the business go? Yo, all that got destroyed, bro. All that got destroyed. Because, see, when William S. Crawley created these Bethel or these tabernacles, it formed later into what you know as Bethel. That's why you'll see a lot of Bethel congregations, like Congregation Bethel. All of them come from out of the Crawley school. Well, where all these businesses went, because a lot of racism was taking place in Philadelphia, they picked up and went to a place called Belleville, Virginia. Belleville, Virginia is a town that's controlled by nothing but Israelites. You can go right now today. They got their own police department. The names of their school, their names of their streets are named after them. They got their own schools, their own communities. All these people are like upper class black people that follow William S. Crawley. And they have a chain of these Nabeems to this day. You think I'm lying? Go on the internet. I'm not saying you, I'm just speaking figuratively. Go on the internet and type up William S. Crawley website, and it's going to pop up. And to this day, their leader is William S. Crawley's, like his great-great-grandson. It's a chain of these relatives to this day that run their community, man. Fact. A lot of them communities, there's a lot of communities in Africa that William S. Crawley ordained. That's why you find all these Zion tabernacles and all that. That's because Charles Mason was appointed in 1904 to come, because he was originally a native from South Africa. And he was appointed by William S. Crawley to spread the tabernacles throughout Africa. This is a fact. It's known as African Zionism. African Zionism developed from out of William S. Crawford. That's why I say these guys that y'all talking to, they don't know nothing about no Israelite teachings or history, man. They don't. They don't know how none of this stuff developed. None of this. None of this. None of it. They don't even know that a lot of them communities in South America were created by William S. Crawley. And then you got also Frank S. Cherry. Frank S. Cherry were the first, the Prophet Cherry was the first to have IDs without pictures on it. They the only Hebrew Israelite community in the world that take IDs as a group without their pictures and is recognized by the U.S. government. That's a fact, man. Talk to anybody that come out of the school of Prophet Cherry. You can still go there. It's on 25th and Nicholson in North Philly, man. Come on. This is a fact, man. This is a fact. Philadelphia, listen. Philadelphia has, listen, New York have a history of Israelites. Philly do too. This is a fact. Philly got got the oldest Israelite school still standing to this day. People would think New York or Chicago, but no, it's in Philadelphia. Not to say that there wasn't Israelites in these areas, because it was. I'm saying the oldest school that's still standing today, that people congregate at, it's the Tabernacle on Broad and Limbaugh Street in South Philadelphia. It's been there since 1901. Go look it up. And I read about the Royal Order of the Ethiopian Israelites. Yeah, that was a sector that came from Rabbi Wentworth A. Matthews, man. We know the history. That was in Harlem too. And in Long Island, New York, or Babylon, New York. Fact. We know the history. So I'm at the end now, y'all. I'm going to get me some sleep. It's 5:35 a.m. I'm going to get some sleep. But I had to get on fire tonight because I couldn't let that. And again, give a shout out to Jeremiah Judah, Lions Den. This ain't got nothing to do with the Lions Den. But I wanted the world to know that that young brother won. He won that debate hands down. Again, go look at the debate. He offensively, he was dismantling Jeremiah's and proving he wasn't an Israelite. And the process of him offensively proving that, defensively, he was showing that we was Israel at the same time. So it was like he was killing two birds with one stone. That's all he did. So give a shout out. Wow, I thought NOI controlled Philly, Toda Rabbah. Yeah, NOI did control Philly, but that came much later. Remember, the Nation of Islam, they penetrated Philly in the early 1950s. You see what I'm saying? The most prominent, they might have came late 40s, early 1950s. We know in 1956, we know for a fact when Malcolm X came out of prison, he didn't go to Harlem, New York first. He went to North Philly and he stayed with the late Jeremiah Shabazz, who was the head of number 12 Mosque up on Borden Cumberland in North Philly, which in fact is known as being the most powerful underhandedly in the United States. Like, Philly went through stages of Islam. Naturally, we had the Moors. Then it was the first resurrection of the Nation of Islam. A lot of the Moorish members became members in the Nation of Islam. Then from that, we went from the Nation of Islam stage into the Sunni Islam. Then from the Sunni Islam, we went into what is known as the they call them It means pious. They're known as Salafi. Now we in the realm of Salafi Islam in Philly. But it was stages. But at one time, the Nation of Islam under Black Brothers Incorporated, y'all know who that is. I ain't got to get all deep into it. Everything ain't for everybody, but they controlled all that. Even to this day, I'm not going to say the Nation of Islam. I'm just going to say that Black people control certain elements of Philly politics, and a lot of them are Muslim. And that's all I'm going to say. It's not nothing good nor bad, none of that. But there's just certain things that I'm not going to talk about on social media when it comes to things like that. You know, I'm not in a position, just because I live in Africa, I'm still from Philly. You know, I still respect the street code, even though I'm not in the street no more. You know what I'm saying? But I still respect the street code. We say, what's the debate? What lies then? I'm going to go watch that, and then I'll come back and critique that debate. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, when it comes to the Nation of Islam, I have a lot of respect for the Nation of Islam. You know, I work with the Nation of Islam, and you know, my whole thing is this. Nobody don't come at the Italians with the mafia. Nobody don't come at the Chinese with the triad. Nobody don't come to the Russians with the Russian mafia, or the Irish with the Irish mafia and the corrupt police department. So what I'm saying, my people had to do what they had to do to survive, and that's just that. Now I'll leave it on the table like that. But I'm not going to sit up here and say, yo, them brothers was evil, they was wicked, this, that, the third. All I'm saying is certain things had to be done. Oh yeah, the OG, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, them was, the Black Brothers Incorporated came out of South Philly under Sam Christian and Ron Harvey. All them Larry Dawson, all them cats. The cats from Temple, Newark, they were affiliate, but them bulls wasn't no joke neither. Like Newark, New Jersey, woo, you know what I mean? With Philly, they had Black Brothers Incorporated, which became known as Philadelphia Black Mafia. You know, now I can speak on terms like that, just basic terms, because that's known not only throughout Philadelphia, but known throughout journalists that wrote information on this. And even, you know, they got a book out called Black Brothers Incorporated. And that's a book you might want to read, Nasik Ovadia. I think that's something that you would want to read. Matter of fact, I'm gonna inbox you, or I'm a WhatsApp. Matter of fact, I'll WhatsApp you. You know what I mean? Inbox me your direct. I'm a WhatsApp you, and we'll talk directly, because everything ain't for the air. You know what I mean? But you can go to Black and Nobel Books. Call Black and Nobel Books. Get the number. You can get the number offline. Call them. They hold the book. And you can get the book sent to you, because I know you also live in Africa. You live in West Africa now. You know what I mean? So you can send that. You can get that sent to you. If not, I'll get it sent to you. And it gives you a lot of the history from, you know, police files, records, testimony. I mean, the joint, it going crazy. Oh, that's who's debating. Yeah, I know about Christ Michael, Christ Michael, you know. I'm not even going to expound on that. That'll be a whole another lesson, like, boom, like, that, you know, he believed who he is. He believed Christ, you know. A lot of people thought they was Christ. You know what I'm saying? Or the Christ, whatever, because that's just a title, which is pagan. You know what I mean? Go back to Christos, which Christos was deified or known as Kyrios. Anybody that know Greco-Roman history know that the term Christ is pagan. Everybody know that. That's basic. Just that alone, you would call that name sacrilege. Ben Ami wrote a 2-part volume book known as Yeshua the Hebrew Messiah, or Jesus the Christian Christ. He break all that down, part 1 and part 2. Excellent books to get. But I gotta go, y'all. I love y'all. What you say? It was black economic. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's how I see it. Me and you see it the same way. Now, see, we walking on the same. We on the same line. That's how I see it. 100%. They can call it whatever they want to call it, but this is how we see it. You know, the bottom line is stay out of black people affairs. Just like you want us to stay out of y'all affairs. Bottom line. Or so-called black people, the true children of Israel. But these things made who we are today. My father's side of the family is well respected, and they came from out of the first resurrection of the Nation of Islam. I was, born a Muslim, even though Israelite by the seed of my father. I didn't come into this walk until 30 years ago. You know what I mean? I got 30 years under my belt, a long time. But I was born and raised a Muslim. So I have that militancy. So, and I know the history because I'm from Philly. So I know North Philly, Hunting Park. So I have the understanding. And my father and my uncles and my aunts being so deep in the Nation of Islam. You know what I'm saying? Like they ran all the prisons in Pennsylvania. Like, listen, you weren't making no power move in any federal or, mainly no Pennsylvania prisons without going through the Nation of Islam. That's a fact. Like, you had to go through Noonie Mims, and people that know who you had to go through. You had to go through who is E-Man who is Noonie Mims and all them. That's a fact. He ran Greater 4. Anybody that know the history of Black Brothers Incorporated or Philadelphia Black Mob, they know how that thing went down and who was running the show in the prisons and who was running the show in, man, when you start studying how Fat Cat got hit up and down there in Atlantic City, this is all public information. We ain't speaking about anybody being on trial. This is public information. And all the men, the leader of Black Brothers Incorporated, he just died not too long ago. That's saying Christian. He died, old man, natural causes on the street. You know what I'm saying? Much respect to the legend. You know what I'm saying? He did what he had to do. And like you said, it is black economics. You know what I'm saying? And that's that. Yup. Absolutely. Yeah. Yup. You absolutely. See, this only for those, you know what I mean? They ain't even on that. No, that's a whole nother, that's like private conversations. These boys, they'll be running with it, dry snitching, telling. Like these guys, man. That's why I say, man, we got to listen to our elders, man. You know what I mean? So we'll know the know. We'll know who's who. You know what I mean? Other than that, we not going to know. So I got to get out of here. I get this, Jeremiah's, he get a thumbs up for effort, but you definitely lost that. And you poorly showed your sources. They weren't even primaries. They were just statements. Opinionated statements. That's all they were. But they weren't primaries. You didn't have primaries. You quoted opinionated statements based on your belief that you're an Israelite, based on you being influenced by other Hispanics that was influenced by black people teaching that the Hispanics were Israelites because some were ignorant to believe in that 12-tribe chart. That's just that. Giving all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those striving for righteousness' sake. I say it to the family, Shalom Aleichem. This is the mighty Hebrew, Prince Charlandine, Hebrew Israelite. Sovereign nationalism has risen worldwide.